Every great team story, whether it's about superheroes or a heist crew, tends to follow a formula. There's the brains, the brawn, the specialist, basically a dream team like the Avengers or the crew from Ocean's 11. A perfectly oiled machine with a plan that, even when it goes sideways, was somehow part of the plan all along. They're the scalpel, precise and efficient. Now, imagine the complete opposite. A group made up of second-string heroes, reformed villains, and characters no one quite knew what to do with. A team that doesn't really have a plan, just a vague idea. And that idea usually falls apart 5 minutes in, once someone decides to flirt with the Queen of France or become best friends with Al Capone. Legends of Tomorrow is exactly that. The chainsaw of the DC universe. They're not here to fix history gently. They barrel in, break everything, cause more anachronisms than they solve, and it's that chaotic, unpredictable mess that makes their journey one of the most fun rides on TV. The year is 2166, and the villain Vandal Savage is on the verge of world domination after having already murdered Rip Hunter's wife and son. Rip, a time master, goes before the council to ask for permission to travel back in time and stop Savage's rise, but the council gives him a hard no, stating their job is to protect time, not change it. Rip, pissed off, decides to disobey, grabs his time ship, the Wave Rider, and heads to 2016 to assemble his own squad. Rip's selection looks like a B-list version of the Avengers. He recruits Ray Palmer, the Atom, while he's helping the Green Arrow, Sarah Lance, the former assassin, in the middle of a bar fight in Tibet. Firestorm, formed by Professor Stein and Jefferson Jax Jackson, who were arguing, and Kendra Saunders and Carter Hall, the current incarnations of Hawkgirl and Hawkman. To round out the team, he picks up criminals Leonard Snart, Captain Cold, and Mick Rory, Heatwave, right after a heist. The recruitment method is simple. Rip shows up out of nowhere and blinds everyone. He gathers the crew, shows them the disastrous future that awaits, and sells them a story about how they're all legends in the future, giving them 36 hours to decide. Sarah talks to her sister Laurel, who dubs her the White Canary, and gives her a new suit. Stein, not taking no for an answer from Jax, simply drugs the kid and brings him along. Snart convinces Rory with the promise that, with time travel, they can pull off the heists of the century. They all accept and board the Wave Rider, unaware they're being watched by Kronos, a temporal bounty hunter. Their first stop is 1975 to find Professor Boardman, an expert on Savage. While part of the team goes to speak with him, Sarah, Snart, and Rory are left on the ship, but decide to hit a bar instead. Boardman explains Kendra and Carter's reincarnation cycle and Savage's obsession, and then comes the twist worthy of a soap opera. Boardman is their son from a past life. Meanwhile, Kronos attacks the ship, and the trio at the bar gets into a brawl. In the chaos of returning to the ship, Boardman is mortally wounded. With Boardman's life hanging by a thread, Rip comes clean. He lied. They aren't legends. They're basically nobodies in the historical record, chosen precisely because their absence wouldn't make a difference. The real reason? Revenge. Savage killed his family. Even so, the team decides to stay and fight to control their own destinies. The team arrives in Norway in 1975 with a plan: infiltrate a black market arms auction where Vandal Savage is likely to be. Snart, Rory, and Ray are super eager to go, like kids heading to Disneyland. Rip is reluctant but eventually lets them. Sarah goes along, and Professor Stein shows up looking sharp to help, convincing the security guard that they're famous terrorists to get them in. Meanwhile, Kendra, Carter, and Jax are on the roof, ready for backup. Inside, a surprise. Savage isn't a buyer. He's the one selling a nuclear warhead. And to make things weirder, one of the bidders is none other than Damien Dark. The auction starts, and to maintain their cover, Stein tells Snart to make a bid, and they end up winning the bomb. The situation gets tense when Savage, who seems to have a built-in Hawkdar, senses Kendra and Carter's presence and realizes something is wrong. He offers a 25% discount for the team's heads, and all hell breaks loose. Rory charges in. Ray pops out of Stein's pocket already in Atom mode, and a massive brawl breaks out. Savage activates the bomb and panic sets in. Ray shrinks down and enters the warhead to try and disarm it, but there's not enough time. The solution? Firestorm, who had just merged, grabs the bomb, flies far away, and absorbs the entire blast like it's a light snap. they manage to save the day, but it's not all good news. Back on the Wave Rider, Rip has the patience of someone who just stepped on a Lego. The team not only exposed themselves to Savage, but the worst has happened. During the fight, a piece of the Atom suit technology broke off. And guess who found it? Vandal Savage. With that piece in his hands, the future has changed for the worse. Now, Savage has the technology to build something far more powerful, and Central City will be completely destroyed in 2016. Things kick off with a quick jump to ancient Egypt, where we see Rip trying to kill Vandal Savage and failing miserably. Back in 1975, the situation is dire. Kendra is dying because fragments of Savage's dagger are in her bloodstream. Rip, frustrated by Carter's death and his own failure, is about to lose it. But Sarah, who knows a thing or two about strategy, lays out a new plan. If you can't kill the enemy, hit him where it hurts, his wallet. The idea is to go after Savage's fortune. The team splits up. Ray has a plan straight out of Fantastic Voyage: shrink down and enter Kendra's body to destroy the dagger fragments. Meanwhile, Rip and Sarah go to investigate Savage's bank. Snart, Rory, and Jax, tired of warming the bench, take the jump ship to Central City to steal an emerald. At the bank, Rip and Sarah discover the place is a front for Savage's mercenaries, and a fight breaks out. It's here that Sarah reveals that ever since being resurrected by the Lazarus Pit, she has a bloodlust that turns her into a killing machine. On the ship, Ray fails his first attempt to save Kendra, not because of the suit, but out of sheer panic. Martin gives him a classic mentor speech and convinces him to try again. In Central City, Snart uses the time trip to visit his childhood home and give the emerald to his father, trying to prevent him from being arrested and thus changing his own future. Rip and Sarah discover that the vessel Savage is guarding is Carter's body, used in a bizarre ritual to grant long life to his followers. They crash the ceremony but are captured. Just when all seems lost, Ray finally succeeds in saving Kendra, who wakes up sensing they're in danger. In the nick of time, Jax, Snart, and Rory show up guns blazing and save the day. Rip manages to kill Savage, who vows to return. In the middle of the fight, Sarah fights her bloodlust and instead of killing a henchman, purposefully misses her strikes, showing she's in control. The team holds a funeral for Carter, now more united than ever, and sets off for 1986, Savage's next known location. Snart and Ray disguise themselves as janitors, and Snart, with a slick move, swipes the keycard, and the wallet, of course, from an officer. The card goes to Sarah and Kendra, while Rory creates a distraction with an arm wrestling match. They get the files, but Jax, who apparently can't follow a GPS, ignores Stein's orders and accidentally triggers an alarm. As a result, Sarah and Kendra can't sneak out and have to fight their way out. During the escape, Kendra goes into a berserker rage, just like Sarah, and Firestorm has to grab her so everyone can escape in the chaos. The files point to the Soviet Union, to a scientist named Valentina Vostok. Upon arrival, they're pursued again by Kronos. After tricking the Russians into shooting down their enemy's ship, the team splits up. Ray and Snart go after Valentina, while Rip and Mick hunt for Kronos. They discover that Kronos is actually a time master who offers Rip a deal. If he gives up the mission, the charges against him will be dropped, and the team will be returned to 2016. Rip actually considers it, but Rory warns him, it's a trap. Meanwhile, Sarah and Kendra have a therapy session, beatdown style. Rip tells Sarah to train Kendra, and the two go at it. Sarah provokes Kendra to unleash her fury, and it works a little too well. Kendra goes wild and lands a kick that nearly takes Sarah apart. This triggers Sarah's own bloodlust, and she starts strangling Kendra before regaining her senses and fleeing. In the midst of all this, Stein discovers that Valentina is creating a Soviet firestorm for Savage. He breaks into the lab to steal the power core, but the plan goes south. Ray, with his soft spot, tries to save the scientist, who ends up capturing him. Stein manages to get the core, but is caught right after. Snart escapes with the core thanks to Rory, who stays behind with Ray and Stein. Half the team has been captured, and now the mission is a rescue operation. Stein is in a cell, hallucinating a conversation with Cisco, until he realizes he's actually talking to the scientist Valentina. Soon after, Vandal Savage shows up to say hello and threaten him with some torture sessions. Meanwhile, on the ship, Jax can't sleep. Feeling Stein's pain through their connection, Rip, Sarah, and Snart plan the rescue and decide to ask the Russian mafia, the Bratva, for help. To prove their worth, Sarah has to beat up a few of their goons. In the prison, Ray is completely out of his element, acting like a tourist and annoying the other inmates, while Mip just watches with contempt. Rip leaves Jax and Kendra on the bench, but gives Sarah a secret mission. If she can't save Stein, she has to kill him. Snart, ever the skeptic, warns Sarah that Rip is using them all as pawns. And Ray, well, he keeps talking and gets a beating, with Mick not even flinching to help. To make matters worse, Ray and Mick are tied up to be tortured in front of Stein to force his cooperation. In an act of courage, Ray taunts the guards to take the beating instead of Mick. Seeing this, Stein gives in. The rescue team springs into action. Sarah and Snart split up. Snart goes to get Mick and Ray, while Sarah goes after Stein, but she's too late. Valentina is already forcing Stein to merge with her to create a Soviet firestorm. Outside, Savage senses Kendra's presence and goes after her, but Rip shows up and blasts the villain. In the lab, Valentina transforms but becomes unstable and power-hungry. Jax arrives and manages to convince Stein to reconnect with him, yelling that they are the real Firestorm. The fusion with Valentina breaks, and she explodes. The team narrowly escapes. In the end, Ray and Mick make peace, and Rip praises Sarah for not killing Stein, saying it was her humanity that stopped her, but the peace is short-lived. The ship is attacked by Kronos, loses control, and crash lands in Star City. In the year 2046, where they are greeted by a new Green Arrow, the city is in ruins, looking like a post-apocalyptic movie set. The Wave Rider is a wreck, and they need a part that was, ironically, developed by Ray's company. Rip, trying to be the guardian of the future, forbids Sarah and Ray from leaving, but Sarah doesn't care and puts herself on the team to get the part. Meanwhile, Mick Rory finds his paradise, a future with no laws and no heroes. He quickly dispatches a gang leader and takes his place. The search mission leads Rip and Sarah to find the new Deathstroke, who is none other than Grant Wilson, Slade's son. He's the one responsible for the city's destruction. The pair is saved by the new Green Arrow, who takes them to Oliver's old hideout, and there he is, the original Oliver Queen, bearded, missing an arm, and completely broken.
Hello, Sarah. Long time no see.
He reveals that the new Green Arrow is John Diggle Jr., who now goes by Connor, the rest of the original team, dead or missing. The plan goes wrong when Connor is captured by Deathstroke's gang. Rip wants to abandon the kid, claiming this future isn't real, but Sarah refuses to leave anyone behind. Tension explodes between Snart and Rory, who wants to stay in the future. The fight gets so bad that Snart knocks his partner out to take him back. Determined, Sarah goes to convince old Oliver to get back in the game. With a guilt trip from Stein, even Rip has a change of heart and sends the rest of the team as backup. The rescue is epic. Oliver, now with a bionic arm, is the Green Arrow once more and fights alongside Connor. They defeat Deathstroke, and the Legends team takes care of the rest of the gang. With the city a little safer, Oliver and Connor decide to stay and rebuild it. Sarah says her goodbyes and the team returns to the ship, where Rip admits he's learned a lesson. Every future is worth saving. The Wave Rider takes off, back into the timeline, ready for the next round against Savage. But some things never change. Rip Hunter sits defeated, watching a hologram of his son. They're trapped in 2166, and he's missing them badly. He vents to Professor Stein, doubting his own ability to lead the team. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew is bored out of their minds, especially Mick Rory, who, after their apocalyptic field trip to 2046, is itching to set something on fire. Suddenly, Gideon intercepts a distress call from the Acheron, a Time Fleet vessel. Rip only agrees to help because the ship's computer has information on Vandal Savage's whereabouts. Pure self-interest. The team is skeptical, thinking it could be a trap set by the Time Masters. In space, the boarding party, Rip, Mick, and Firestorm, enters the Acheron, while Ray and Kendra are left to babysit the Wave Rider. But of course, it was a trap. Space pirates appear out of nowhere and capture everyone. Back on the Wave Rider, the pirates call to let them know they have hostages. Rip utters a code phrase, Imperiex Onslaught, and Gideon goes haywire, starting to fire on the Acheron. Ray, who is playing Star Trek, has to take manual control to prevent a tragedy. In the middle of the chaos, Mick, feeling betrayed by Rip, decides to turn coat and makes a deal with the pirates to hand over the Wave Rider. He returns to the ship pretending to have escaped, but his cover is quickly blown, and the pirates invade. A massive fight breaks out. Sarah goes after Mick, but it's Captain Cold who settles it, freezing his former partner. In the end, they get the information they wanted. Savage is in 1958. With the dust settled, the team has to decide what to do with Mick. Snart says he'll handle it. He takes Mick to a deserted location, and without a second thought, shoots him with his cold gun.
You wanna kill me? Kill me. You're right.
The end of their partnership. The team lands in Harmony Falls, Oregon, in the year 1958. The town looks like something straight out of a 50s sitcom, but under the surface, a series of mysterious murders and disappearances are taking place, all bearing Vandal Savage's signature. To investigate, the team splits up for a Scooby-Doo style operation. Ray and Kendra pose as a married couple and move into the neighborhood. Stein and Sarah go undercover at the hospital as a doctor and nurse, and Jax goes back to high school to investigate the disappearance of some teenagers. Rip and Snart, they become FBI agents. Savage, using the alias Dr. Knox, is turning the missing teens into winged monsters, like a twisted version of the X-Men. He's using an nth metal meteorite to create his own army of Hawkmen. Jax's encounter with a local girl goes horribly wrong when they're attacked by one of these monsters. Jax ends up getting arrested and taken straight to Savage, who injects him with the transformation serum. Kendra tries to seduce Savage and kill him with a special dagger Ray stole, but the plan fails miserably. Savage unleashes his creatures on the hospital. The team has to fight their own friend Jax, who is now an out-of-control winged monster. In the midst of the chaos, Ray manages to save Kendra, Sarah subdues Jax, and Stein prepares a cure to bring him back to normal. Everything seems resolved. Jax is cured, and Sarah says goodbye to a nurse with whom she shared a vibe. But just as they're about to return to the Wave Rider, Kronos appears out of nowhere and attacks the ship. Rip has no choice but to take off in a hurry, leaving Ray, Kendra, and Sarah behind, stranded in the 50s. The team is broken. Half of them are stuck in 1958, while Rip, Stein, and Jax are on the damaged Wave Rider. And to make matters worse, Kronos has kidnapped Captain Cold. 2 years pass. Ray and Kendra have built a life in the 60s. He's become a university professor and they're a couple. On their anniversary, right as Ray is about to propose, the Wave Rider finally shows up. Awful timing. Sarah, on the other hand, has fallen off the grid. Meanwhile, we get the big reveal. Kronos takes off his helmet, and it's Mick Rory. It turns out Snart didn't have the heart to kill him. The Time Masters rescued Mick and turned him into their personal bounty hunter, a Terminator with a thirst for revenge against the team that abandoned him. The team discovers that Sarah has returned to the League of Assassins. They go to Nanda Parbat, but she's suffering from a kind of temporal amnesia and doesn't recognize them, handing them all over to Ra's al Ghul. To free themselves, Rip invokes a trial by combat. Ra's chooses Sarah as his champion. Rip, in turn, chooses Kendra. The fight between them is intense, and seeing her friend's powers and actions serves as a reality check for Sarah, who finally regains her memory. At that exact moment, Kronos invades Nanda Parbat. Ra's releases the team to help in the fight. They manage to overpower Mick, and Snart, who escaped by freezing his own hand to break free from his cuffs, arrives just in time to stop them from killing him.
You son of a bitch! Don't do it! Don't kill him. Smart? Sorry, don't kill Kronos!
With the team reunited, Rip locks Mick in the ship's brig, hoping to rehabilitate him. Snart gets a new hand thanks to the Wave Rider's technology, and Rip sets their next destination, the year 2147, a dystopian future where he always knew Savage would be. Things kick off with Rip going down to the bridge to apologize to Rory. He admits he was wrong, but Rory isn't interested in talking and says he wants to kill both him and Snart. The mood is just great. This mission takes them to the future, 2147, to a corporate nation-state called the Khaznia Conglomerate, which is the launching point for Savage's world domination. For this, they need the Nerd Squad, Ray and Stein. Stein is thrilled about the future, but Rip quickly bursts his bubble. In 5 years, a tyrant named Degaton will release a virus that kills almost everyone. Proof that the future is weird are the Autumn model robots that act as a self-governing police force. Rip infiltrates a shareholders meeting and finds Savage there, basically suggesting genocide to solve the hunger crisis. The leader, Tor Degaton, refuses, but his son, Per Degaton, idolizes Savage. It's this boy who, in the future, unleashes the virus. Snart, ever the pragmatist, suggests the simplest solution: take the kid out. But the team, being all heroic, is horrified. They decide to just kidnap the boy. While Sarah, Snart, and Rip handle the kidnapping, Ray discovers that the robot company is the future Palmer Tech, and the CEO is his descendant. He freaks out, thinking he had a son he never knew about. Gideon, however, informs them that the kidnapping hasn't hasn't changed the timeline at all. Rip becomes convinced that killing the boy is the only way, but Sarah stops him. So, Rip releases the boy, but not before giving him a lecture, telling him that Savage will betray him. Soon after, Degaton's forces attack. In the confusion, Ray finds out his descendant is actually from his brother's bloodline. In the end, their actions only accelerated Savage's rise.
This is our discussion concerning the population crisis beyond the conglomerate's borders. As we all know, we already have a solution.
And to make matters worse, Rory, after a nasty fight with Snart, warns them that the Time Masters have sent the Hunters, elite assassins, to take them out. The only option, run. To escape the Hunters, the team hides out in the Old West. In 1871, Rip tells everyone to lay low, but of course, no one listens, and the crew heads straight for a saloon. There, Kendra has a bizarre flashback involving an old woman. Rory challenges Sarah to a drinking contest and loses badly, and Stein is winning at poker until a bar brawl breaks out. Who shows up to restore order? None other than Jonah Hex. The guy not only recognizes them as time travelers, but also reveals he already knows Rip from past scrapes. It turns out Rip once lived in the Old West, but abandoned the town he was protecting, and it was destroyed. Jonah has never forgiven him for it. Meanwhile, Ray, in a comedic twist, becomes the new sheriff just in time for the Stillwater gang to show up and terrorize the town. Kendra, still bugged by the flashback, seeks out the old woman and discovers she is one of her past lives. The old woman drops a bombshell, telling Kendra she can only truly love Carter and his reincarnations. So, where does that leave Ray? Meanwhile, Stein decides to play doctor from the future and uses advanced technology to cure a little boy with tuberculosis. The catch? The boy's name is H.G. Wells. Yes, that H.G. Wells. After a hostage exchange with the gang, it all comes down to a duel at high noon. Rip takes Ray's place and wins, sending the bandits packing. But the peace is short-lived. The Hunters arrive in full force. The team uses their powers and defeats the assassins, only to discover something worse. The Time Masters have activated Omega Protocol and sent the Pilgrim, a sinister assassin who won't hunt them, but their younger selves. The scene cuts to the Pilgrim killing Rory when he was just a child. But who is the Pilgrim? She's an elite assassin sent by the Time Masters, with the terrifying ability to wipe people from existence entirely. Her new target? Our team of misfits. The first stop is 1990 to save a young Mick Rory from a house fire. Ray shows up in full size in front of the kid and delivers a perfect "come with me if you want to live," Terminator style.
Come with me if you want to live. I always wanted to say that.
After rescuing a young Sarah from an attack in the middle of a police station, Rip comes up with an even crazier idea. Kidnap the baby versions of Snart, Stein, and Jax to keep them safe on the ship. The baby heist mission is a success, despite a close call with the Pilgrim. The weirdest part is seeing baby Snart being cute, and Jax getting a chance to meet his father, who died just 2 weeks after Jax was born. To hide, Rip takes everyone to the Refuge, a Time Master orphanage where he grew up, and we learn his real name is Michael. But the Pilgrim changes tactics. Since she can't kill the heroes, she'll kill their loved ones, starting with Jax's father. Rip then sets a trap. He offers up his younger self in exchange for Jax's dad. The Pilgrim accepts, not knowing that young Michael is the bait. At the exchange, the Pilgrim freezes the team in time but makes the mistake of ignoring the boy. Young Rip stabs her, breaking the spell and allowing the team to finally defeat her. With the assassin out of the picture, the team returns everyone to their timelines, complete with amnesia pills. In the midst of all this, Kendra finally agrees to marry Ray, but there's no time to celebrate. Rip warns that time is running out and they have one last chance to attack Savage in 2166 at the height of his power. The team barely arrives in 2166 London before the Wave Rider comes under fire, forcing an emergency landing. Rip warns them they are 3 days away from his family's death. He devises a plan. He, Sarah, Snart, and Rory will go in fighting, while Jax stays on standby for extraction. They infiltrate one of Savage's rallies and come face to face with a mysterious woman who seems to recognize Snart. Realizing they've been made, Snart and Rory decide to attack Savage right then and there, basically saying, to hell with the plan. While Sarah fights the woman, Kendra notices her bracelet and has a flash of insight. It's the same one she was wearing when she first died. The attack, of course, fails, and the team is forced to retreat. Rip is furious at the duo's impulsiveness, but Kendra insists they need that bracelet. Rip tells Sarah to train Kendra, but she has no idea how. In the cargo bay, Kendra finds Carter's mace, touches it, and bam, she gets a flashback to 1941 with Carter training her. Now she has an idea. Meanwhile, Rip, Ray, Stein, and Jax find a resistance movement full of children. They promise to help, but soon discover that Savage has a super powerful secret weapon. Snart and Rory go after the woman with the bracelet, who reveals she knows all about them. Bear kidnaps her, and on the Wave Rider, the bombshell drops. She's not just a lieutenant, she's Savage's daughter, Cassandra. Snart goes to talk to her and learns that she thinks her father is a hero, completely unaware of his evil deeds. Kendra and Rory melt down the bracelet and forge it into Carter's mace, creating the perfect weapon. Suddenly, the ship is attacked by the Leviathan, a giant robot. Ray has a plan worthy of the Power Rangers. Modify the Atom suit so he can grow to giant size and fight it head on. While Ray battles the robot, the rest of the team corners Savage. Kendra manages to disarm him, but a soldier appears. She defeats him, takes off his helmet, and shock, it's Carter, a brainwashed future version of him. Savage gloats, saying if she kills him, Carter is a goner too. Kendra freezes. Rip then decides to capture Savage instead. In the end, Ray destroys the robot, and Snart convinces Cassandra to join the resistance. The scene opens in ancient Egypt, with Savage holding Rip hostage and savoring every second of the psychological torture. On the Wave Rider, most want to erase Savage for good, but Stein and Kendra are worried about Carter. Savage taunts Rip, revealing he can also time travel and is actually trying to save the world in his own way. Suddenly, the ship's time drive breaks. Jax goes to fix it, but gets hit with a blast of radiation and starts aging faster than yogurt left out in the sun. Meanwhile, Savage, the master manipulator, tries to poison everyone's minds. Kendra attempts to help Carter regain his memory, but he attacks her. Ray saves the day, kicks Carter out, and goes to confront Savage. The villain plays dirty, saying Ray and he are alike and that Carter is the real enemy. Ray, heartbroken by the situation and his own jealousy, dismisses Kendra's apologies and says Savage is right, loving her is a curse. And just like that, he breaks up with her. Seeing Jax turning into an old man, Stein takes drastic action. He drugs the kid and puts him on the jump ship to send him back to 2016, which should reverse the aging. It's a sacrifice, as Stein can no longer become Firestorm. With the jump ship gone, the rest of the team is stranded. Ray, blinded by rage, opens the cell and goes after Savage. The fight begins, but Savage, the smarter fighter, turns the tables, knocks Ray out, and uses his handprint to escape. Savage frees Carter, and the two attack the team. In the middle of the brawl, Carter has a massive memory flash, remembers everything, and turns on Savage. Savage wounds him, but Kendra, furious, beats the villain until he's unconscious. With Savage and Carter recaptured, they finally reach the vanishing point. But then comes the plot twist. The Time Council ignores all the evidence, arrests Rip and the team, and simply frees Savage. It turns out Druce, the council's leader, was in league with the villain all along. Meanwhile, Sarah and Snart, who were in hiding, watch the whole thing go down. In a flashback, we see 2016 Jax being convinced by Stein to join the mission. Back in the present, at the vanishing point, the situation is grim. The Time Master's plan to brainwash Rory and turn him back into Kronos. And here comes the reveal of the century. The Time Masters are helping Savage because 10 years after he takes over the world, an alien race will invade and destroy everything. Their twisted logic is either Savage unites Earth by force, or everyone turns to cosmic dust. And the final bomb? It was the Time Masters themselves who sent Savage to kill Rip's family, just to give him the motivation to start this journey. Rip is devastated. Meanwhile, Sarah and Snart emerge from hiding and hatch a rescue plan. They use the Wave Rider to attack the vanishing point and free the team. During the rescue, Kronos, Rory, appears, but instead of shooting Snart, he turns his weapon, shoots the Time Master who tortured him, and crushes the man's skull. Our Rory is back, and he is pissed. The team decides the only way to have free will is to destroy the Oculus, the machine that allows the Time Masters to see and manipulate the future. They break into the Oculus chamber, but are surrounded. When all seems lost, Jax returns in the jump ship and merges with Stein, becoming firestorm and clearing a path. Ray discovers that to blow up the Oculus, someone has to stay behind. He's already preparing for the sacrifice, but Rory comes up from behind, punches him, and takes his place. Snart rushes to stop him, but Rory is determined. So, Snart knocks out his partner and tells Sarah to get Rory back to the ship. Sarah, understanding everything, gives Snart a farewell kiss and drags Rory away. Snart faces the Oculus and boom, he sacrifices himself, destroying the machine and the vanishing point. The team, now free, mourns their loss but knows that Snart gave them a chance. Rory, seeking revenge, says he still wants to kill someone. Ray suggests the perfect target, Savage. Meanwhile, Savage discovers his plan is toast, but he's unfazed. Now he has a time ship and is going to mess up the timeline on his own. Rip Hunter basically kicks the team to the curb, abandoning them all in 2016. The excuse? With no leads on Vandal Savage and no way to kill him, the mission is a bust. He takes off with the Wave Rider, but it's just a hologram. The guy had already bailed, leaving the crew stranded in the present. Back in Star City, the first thing Sarah discovers is that her sister Laurel was killed by Damien Dark. It's a gut punch for her and for us. Meanwhile, in Central City, Rory goes back to his life of crime. But when his new partner kills a guard, Rory doesn't think twice and torches the guy. It seems his time with the Legends has tweaked his code of honor a bit. Ray shows up out of nowhere and convinces Rory to form a new duo, since that's what Snart would have wanted. The rest of the team gets together and decides the mission can't end like this. They manage to call the Wave Rider back and convince Rip to keep going. That's when things get crazy. We find out that back in 1944, Kendra left a message hidden in an American soldier's helmet. Back on the ship, a livid Sarah attacks Rip for not going back in time to save Laurel. He explains that messing with time would only make things worse. Soon after, they find Kendra's message. Savage's plan is to use her and Carter's blood to activate alien technology and erase history. The team raids his base in 1944, but only manages to rescue Carter. Stein then figures out the villain's real plan, to detonate 3 meteors in different time periods to create a temporal paradox and destroy everything. To stop Savage, they need to kill him in 3 places at once: 2021, 1958, and 1975. The team splits up, and the attack is simultaneous. Kendra stabs him, Rory incinerates him, and Sarah snaps his neck. Rip delivers the final blow, electrocuting the bastard.
I may die, but you will live knowing that you failed to save the lives.
But one of the meteors is still going to explode. Rip sacrifices himself, flying the Wave Rider with the meteor inside it straight into the sun. But psych, he used a time jump to save himself and returned 20 minutes earlier. With the Time Masters out of the picture, he invites everyone to be the new time police. After some emotional goodbyes, a second Wave Rider suddenly appears and crashes in front of them. A guy named Howerman from the Justice Society of America steps out with a warning: don't get on the ship. The story kicks off with a historian, Nate Haywood, running to Oliver Queen to tell him the Legends might have been dead since 1942. The two head to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, find the sunken Wave Rider, and revive Mick Rory, who is in stasis. Mick wakes up confused and ready for a fight, but Oliver calms him down.
My name is Oliver Queen, and my preference is to not break your arm. So I want you.
Then, it's Mick's story time. He explains that everything went wrong in 1637, France. The mission was to ensure the king had an heir, but Sarah ended up seducing the queen to help. In the middle of the chaos, they used their powers and somehow caused a nuclear bomb to detonate in 1942. The result, the Nazis won World War II. To fix the timeline, they went to 1942 and kidnapped Einstein, only to discover that his ex-wife was also a genius capable of building the bomb. In an attempt to stop the explosion, Rip used the Wave Rider as a shield. Before impact, he scattered the team across different eras and put Mick to sleep. Back in the present, Mick and Nate use the ship to rescue the crew. It's a chaotic tour through history. They save Ray from a T-Rex, pull Sarah out of the Salem witch trials, and rescue Stein and Jax, who were trying to entertain a medieval king with their cell phones. Reunited, they find a farewell message from Rip, passing the mission of protecting time onto them. The team returns to 1942, and instead of kidnapping Einstein, they simply convince him to give his wife public credit, which ensures their protection and fixes history. Just when they think they can finally catch a break, a group of costumed heroes shows up. Stargirl, Vixen, Obsidian, Obsidian and Commander Steel introduce themselves as the Justice Society of America and order the Legends to surrender. Looks like the party's over. The Justice Society of America, JSA, isn't messing around and takes on the Legends, winning the fight easily. Nate tries to introduce himself to his grandfather, Commander Steel, and gets a welcome punch to the face. The Legends are taken into custody, and Rex Tyler, the Hour Man who warned them in the future, has no idea who they are. Meanwhile, in Paris, the Reverse Flash is negotiating with a Nazi, Baron Krieger. He wants a powerful amulet in exchange for a super soldier serum. The Legends manage to convince the JSA they aren't villains, mainly because Nate knows intimate details about his grandfather. They discover that the JSA is destined to die the next day, and decide to team up to prevent it. Sarah is elected the new team leader. The plan is to infiltrate a nightclub where Krieger will be. Stein, who is a dead ringer for a famous singer of the era, gets on stage and sings Edelweiss from The Sound of Music, moving even the Nazis to tears. But the ruse is discovered, and a full-blown brawl breaks out. Krieger escapes, takes the serum, and transforms into a Hulk-like monster. In the chaos, Ray and Vixen are captured. Stein panics, and Sarah takes definitive command. Nate reveals he's a hemophiliac, meaning any injury could be fatal. The team comes up with a rescue plan. During the operation, Nate heroically saves his grandfather from the monstrous Krieger but is gravely injured. He's dying from internal bleeding, but Ray, who had saved a sample of the modified serum, injects Nate with it, saving his life and giving him powers in the process. With history fixed and the family reunited, everything seems fine. But back at the JSA headquarters, the Reverse Flash appears, kills Rex Tyler in front of Vixen, and steals the amulet. Before dying, Rex only manages to say, "Time traveler." The speedster villain got what he wanted, and the Legends have no idea of the danger that's coming. Vixen storms the Wave Rider, blaming Mick for Hourman's death. She's about to fry him when Nate steps in front of her and turns into a living metal statue, like Colossus from the X-Men. No one understands what's happening, least of all him. Sarah, ever the strategist, tells Ray to help the new Citizen Steel understand his powers. Then, she makes a deal with Vixen, no killing Mick until they're sure he's the culprit. Ray has the brilliant idea of testing Nate's powers by shooting him, which obviously goes wrong and ejects them both from the ship, straight into feudal Japan. Ray is captured by a shogun who steals his Atom suit, and Nate is saved by a young woman named Masako, who happens to be the promised bride of that very same shogun. To make matters worse, Nate gets stabbed, and his powers disappear. Meanwhile, Mick, Amaya, and Sarah go after the Atom suit, with Mick obsessed with the idea of finding ninjas. They rescue Ray, but the Shogun now has a high-tech suit. On the ship, Jax and Stein discover a secret compartment with a message from Barry Allen from 2056. The crew decides to help Masako's village. The plan is insane. Ray will fight in samurai armor against the Shogun in his tech suit. When the fight goes down, Mick is attacked by ninjas, yes, they exist, and returns dressed as one to help Sarah and Amaya. At the climax, Nate finally manages to steal up and destroys the Atom suit, defeating the villain. In the end, there's a farewell kiss between Nate and Masako, who we learn is from the Yamashiro family, the same as Katana from the Suicide Squad. And to top it all off, Amaya gives Mick a shuriken as proof that he was right all along. This mission, Legends vs. Zombies in the American Civil War. The team finds a time pirate who spread a virus and turned Confederate soldiers into the living dead. They meet Henry Scott, a Union spy who is attacked by the zombies and, before dying, passes his mission to Jax, deliver the Confederates' battle plans to General Grant. The problem is, in the confusion, Mick gets bitten and starts turning into a zombie too. While Ray and Stein race against time on the Wave Rider to develop a cure, the rest of the team splits up. Sarah and Nate go to warn General Grant about the zombie apocalypse, and Jax and Amaya set off to steal the plans. Jax ends up captured, but Amaya doesn't let it slide. She frees him and other slaves, grabs the plans, and even sets the Confederate mansion on fire during a zombie attack. General Grant's camp is also overrun, and Sarah has the idea of using Nate in his steel form as a human battering ram to smash through the horde. The plan works beautifully. With the situation under control, Jax poses as Henry Scott and delivers the plans, securing a crucial victory for the Union. Back on the ship, Mick, now cured and grateful, gives Ray the late Captain Cold's cold gun in a moment of pure bromance. We cut to the 80s, with Damien Dark looking like an extra from Miami Vice. He's in the middle of a shady deal when the Reverse Flash shows up to save him and propose a partnership.
Well, perhaps you're content collecting symbols of power, but I I can give you actual power.
The team detects an anomaly that leads them straight to the White House in 1987. The problem? Both Dark and a younger version of Professor Stein are working for President Reagan. Sarah spots Dark, sees red, and goes after him, causing a major scene with the Secret Service. Meanwhile, Amaya and Nate find an older version of Obsidian, a member of the Justice Society, who reveals that the entire team died on a mission in 1956. On the car, Ray and Rory spy on Dark and discover he's going to meet with the KGB. The younger Stein eavesdrops on the meeting, gets stabbed, and the older Stein instantly collapses on the Wave Rider. The climax takes place at a state dinner, where Dark is selling nuclear missile codes in exchange for an artifact. The Legends crash the party, while Ray deactivates a bomb and Rory encourages him to be his own hero. Sarah throws down with Dark. She throws his future fate in his face, a direct spoiler from the show Arrow, which visibly shakes him. Before she can finish the job, the Reverse Flash appears and rescues the villain, but not before Sarah manages to steal the artifact. In the end, Dark, desperate to change his future, accepts Thawne's offer.
Then take me with you. I need to change my destiny.
Tell you what, why don't we work together to change both of our...
The Legion of Doom now has another member. The crew takes a trip to Colorado, 1874, and the vibe is pure Old West. They arrive just in time to save Jonah Hex from being hanged. Jonah tells them he's after a crime lord named Quentin Turnbull. The problem is, the anomaly this time is Turnbull himself, who's trying to secede the West from the US to found his own country, Turnbull Country. The villain's plan involves mining something called Dwarf Star Alloy. Yep, the same material as Ray's suit. With it, he wants to blow up a mountain pass and cut the West off from the rest of the country, preventing the army from getting through. When it's go time, the team splits up. Sarah and Jonah go to confront Turnbull, while Mick and Amaya just blow up the entire mine. And Nate? He throws himself in front of a moving train and uses his steel powers to stop the locomotive dead in its tracks. Epic. In the end, Jonah Hex decides against revenge and hands Turnbull over to the law. With the Dwarf Star Alloy back, Ray is already planning to rebuild his Atom suit and even shows off a brand new uniform he made for Nate. To wrap things up, Amaya decides she's going to be Mick's anger management coach, and Martin realizes that a chat he had with his past self might have messed up the timeline. Before leaving, Sarah announces their next stop, 2016, to help their friends. The Legion of Doom, Dawn, Dark, and Malcolm decides to roll into Chicago, 1927, and teams up with none other than Al Capone.
Help! Did I not make that perfectly clear?
New enemies are coming to Chicago and they will endanger your enterprises.
And you're saying you two can help me out?
The Legends get the alert and arrive just in time to save the famous agent Elliot Ness from being drowned by the mobster's goons. The mission now is to ensure Ness can arrest Capone and keep history on track. They infiltrate one of the gangsters' clubs, but things go south, and Sarah and Martin are kidnapped. In captivity, Martin takes the opportunity to tell Sarah about Lily, his daughter who shouldn't exist. The team manages a rescue, but then comes the plot twist. The Martin they saved is actually Thawne in disguise. The evil speedster opens the Wave Rider's doors to the bad guys, and Sarah has no choice but to hand over the amulet they desperately want in exchange for the real Martin's life. With the amulet complete, the Legion of Doom discovers its true purpose. It's a compass that points to the Spear of Destiny, an artifact with the power to rewrite reality, basically a Control-Z for the universe. Meanwhile, Mick starts having hallucinations of Leonard Snart, who's constantly in his head, blaming him for becoming one of the good guys. To top it all off, we find out where Rip Hunter ended up. He's in Hollywood, 1967, working as a film director and shooting a B-movie. Totally random. We're back to that tense moment from the season premiere, the Wave Rider about to crash into the nuclear bomb in 1942. Inside, Rip Hunter races against time, finds a hidden piece of the spear, and shuts down Gideon just before everything goes up in flames. Cut to the present. Stein finds Mick talking to himself, or rather, to a hallucination of Captain Cold. A desperate Mick asks for help fixing his head, but demands it be kept a secret. Meanwhile, Nate, Ray, and Amaya are in detective mode, trying to figure out what the Legion of Doom and May came up with for the trio of Thawne, Dark, and Merlin wants with two amulets. They discover the amulets fit together to form the Medallion of Longinus, which points directly to the Spear of Destiny, and this spear is is no joke, it can rewrite reality, and the changes are permanent. The villains are already in Los Angeles 1967, and the legends go after them. But there they find Rip, only he's not Rip anymore. He's Phil Gasmer, a film student with an American accent who has no idea who they are. In the ensuing chaos, Rip Phil gets arrested. The legends bust Rip out of the police station, and Gideon confirms his mind was completely rewritten when he used the temporal drive to escape the ship, and worse, Rip's filmmaker friend is none other than George Lucas. The fight on set scared him so much that he quit filmmaking. Without Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Ray and Nate lose their skills, since those were the movies that inspired them. The mission changes. They need to convince George Lucas not to give up on his dreams. Meanwhile, the Legion of Doom shows up and traps everyone in a trash compactor in a scene that is pure Star Wars. To save their skins, the team convinces George to believe in their stories, which miraculously restores Nate's and Ray's powers.
What I really want is to direct!
They escape, but Thawne shows up, defeats everyone, and kidnaps Rip, who had just tried to play the hero, unsuccessfully. The episode closes with the Legion of Doom preparing a torture session to extract information from our former captain. Thawne, acting like the authoritarian boss, sends Dark and Merlin to steal a safe deposit box in Switzerland in 2025. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Martin calls his daughter Lily to help decipher the amulet. The drama starts when she finds out she's a time aberration, a product of her father's travels, and gets seriously pissed at him. Back with the villains, the heist goes wrong. Dark and Merlin, fed up with Thawne, realize he's holding out on them and decide to team up against the Speedster. The legends also figure out that the mysterious Speedster is Eobard Thawne and that he's running from something. On their second attempt, Dark and Merlin manage to crack the safe and find Rip's memories stored on a device. They confront Thawne, who finally comes clean. He's being hunted by the Black Flash, who is basically the Grim Reaper for speedsters. With a brilliant plan, they use the safe as a trap for the monster and escape, forcing Thawne to treat them as equals.
Stay trapped for long. We have to go.
In the end, Lily makes peace with her father and goes home. As for the Legion of Doom, they fix Rip, restoring his memories but with a few minor alterations. The final scene is chilling. An evil Rip shows up in 1776 and kills none other than George Washington. We open on Christmas, 1776, and evil Santa is Rip Hunter. He's now leading the British soldiers and has just killed George Washington. The plan, masterminded by Thawne, is to use this historical mess as bait to lure the legends and steal their piece of the Spear of Destiny. On the Wave Rider, the team detects the aberration and heads to a gala to prevent the assassination, but evil Rip shows up and uses a gadget that causes a total blackout, disabling Ray's suit and the ship itself. To make matters worse, he shoots Sarah and leaves her bleeding in the snow. With Sarah out of commission, Jax becomes the acting captain and has to figure things out. Rip and his men board the Wave Rider, and Jax has to defend the ship alone. Rip even tries to manipulate him, promising to bring his father back with the spear, but Jax doesn't fall for it. To save Sarah, who is on the brink of death, Jax ends up revealing where the spear is hidden. Meanwhile, Mick and Washington are captured, and Mate and Amaya, who went looking for them, end up getting warmed together in a tent to avoid freezing to death. In another corner of the ship, Ray fights a giant rat in the ventilation ducts. Ray manages to restore power, and Gideon saves Sarah's life at the last second. Outside, Mick becomes the hero of the day and helps Washington escape execution. In the final showdown, Jax is about to shoot Rip, but Sarah stops him, and their former captain escapes. History is restored, but with a bonus. There's now a statue of Mick Rory in the Capitol. The episode ends with a Christmas party on the Wave Rider, where the team celebrates their unity and prepares for the next round against the Legion. In Detroit, the year 3000, where a researcher is messing with some future tech, out of nowhere, Rip Hunter appears, with a total Terminator vibe. The researcher is working on a neural transplant that can control violence, but Rip isn't there to talk. He shoots the guy in the leg and demands to know where the piece of the Spear of Destiny he was supposed to protect is.
Now, where is the fragment of the spear that I had you protect?
I don't know why you want it, but you'll never find it.
The researcher was none other than Dr. Midnight of the Justice Society. What a terrible way to reunite with a colleague. The legends use the Wave Rider to travel to 3000 and find the crime scene, with Rip's name written in blood on the floor. Real subtle. Amaya is pissed at Sarah for letting Rip go. Gideon reports that the next piece of the spear is in medieval England, so off the crew goes to dress the part. In the forest, they're attacked by knights, but the group's leader removes her helmet and reveals herself. It's Guinevere. She takes them to King Arthur, who introduces his wizard advisor, Merlin, who is actually Stargirl. It turns out the JSA split up to protect the pieces of the spear throughout history. Hers is hidden in Arthur's court, but the piece doesn't last. Damien Darhk and Rip show up, revealing they used that future tech to brainwash King Arthur. They threaten to kill Stargirl if she doesn't hand over the spear. A massive fight breaks out, and the controlled Arthur ends up killing Sir Galahad. To turn the tables, Stein and Mick try to use the mind control tech, but it doesn't work. The solution has to be good old-fashioned brawling. Ray, a fan of Camelot legends, decides to fight, even after Mate sees in a history book that he's supposed to die. In the heat of battle, Amaya discovers the piece of the spear is inside Excalibur. Mick and Stein finally manage to use the tech to free Arthur, who attacks Rip. Darhk abandons his partner and flees. Ray goes after him, takes a laser blast, and nearly dies, but is saved by the armor underneath, which had pieces of his Atom suit. In the end, Rip is captured, and Sarah has an emotional farewell with Guinevere, complete with a kiss. With Rip locked up on the Wave Rider, the crew doesn't know what to do with him, but Rip is no ordinary prisoner. He uses secret codes to make Gideon obey him.
Spaniel, broad, tricycle.
Very well, Captain.
Breaks free, and even activates the ship's self-destruct sequence. During his escape, he shoots the time drive and the Wave Rider crash lands on an icy mountain in the same era Ray was once stranded, the Cretaceous period. Welcome to the Legends Jurassic Park. To fix the damage, Sarah and Jax decide to enter Rip's mind, Inception style. Inside, it's a nightmarish version of the Wave Rider, filled with evil copies of the team. Meanwhile, outside, Ray, Nate, and Amaya have to retrieve a piece of the ship that fell into the nest of a very unhappy female T-Rex, whom Ray names Gertrude. Inside Rip's mind, things get ugly. Sarah and Jax face their evil versions. Jax finds a human personification of Gideon, who explains that the Reverse Flash scrambled Rip's brain, making him believe his friends are enemies. The real-world Sarah finds the true Rip, who is broken and terrified. In the midst of the drama, Ray drops a bomb on Nate. If he gets together with Amaya, her granddaughter, the vixen of the future, might never exist. It's the classic butterfly effect dilemma, but romance wins out and the two end up kissing. Back in the mental asylum, Sarah, Jax, and the human Gideon convince Rip to fight back. He finally remembers who he is and confronts the evil copies, causing the entire mindscape to collapse.
You have to leave. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't.
Jax manages to wake up just in time and uses a defibrillator to bring Sarah back. Rip awakens, finally free from mind control and back to normal. He apologizes. The ship is repaired, and he has to accept the hard truth. Sarah is the captain now. In the end, he reveals he knows where the last piece of the spear is, with Commander Steele, who is taken by Eobard Thawne. The mission now is to rescue the last piece of the spear, which is with Commander Steele, Mate's grandfather. The problem is, Rip hit the guy at NASA in the 1970s, and now he's one of the heads of the Apollo 13 mission. The reunion is anything but friendly. Henry just punches Rip in the face. He reveals he hid the spear fragment in the flag Neil Armstrong planted on the moon, but history has changed. Eobard Thawne has infiltrated Apollo 13 as one of the astronauts. The Legends head to space to stop Thawne. Ray boards the spacecraft and starts a zero-gravity fight with the Speedster. The chaos is so intense they end up crashing on the moon. Now, the two mortal enemies have to work together to fix the lunar module and get out of there. Meanwhile, the Wave Rider is hit by a meteor shower and is left adrift in space. On Earth, Henry discovers that if he returns to his own time, he'll mess up the timeline and his family's lives. He decides his place is with the Legends. On the moon, Ray and Thawne manage to fix the module and return to the Wave Rider, where Thawne is immediately taken hostage. To save the ship during atmospheric re-entry, someone needs to sacrifice themselves by manually opening the cargo bay. Henry, Nate's grandfather, takes on the responsibility. He says a heartbreaking goodbye to his grandson and throws himself into the vacuum of space, fulfilling his destiny and saving everyone.
Message for me. Tell him I'm sorry for leaving.
Don't. Please don't. Please don't.
The ship lands safely. Thawne manages to escape after blackmailing Ray, revealing that the Black Flash is on his tail. Nate finds the young version of his father, Hank, and has an emotional conversation with him. In the end, Rip admits to Sarah that she's a much better captain than he ever was, officially passing the torch. The teen is whole again, but at a very high cost. The crew is on the front lines of World War I in France, trying to find the blood of Jesus to use on the Spear of Destiny. Sound crazy? That's because it is. Rewind 72 hours. The team gathers on the Wave Rider to decide how to hide the spear from the Legion of Doom. Rip, ever the man of secrets, reveals he knows the villain's base of operations, the Vanishing Point. The plan is to break the spear and invade, but as soon as they arrive, Rip's piece starts to glow, a sign that something is about to go very wrong. Meanwhile, Mick gets nostalgic near the remains of the Oculus, the place where Snart sacrificed himself. He and Sarah have a talk about the weight of that sacrifice. Elsewhere, Jax and Rip find a bizarre pillar that, according to them, holds the rest of the spear. Rip shoots, but the bullet ricochets. No problem. Jax uses his powers and turns the pillar into a pile of jelly beans. Problem solved. By the time Thawne arrives, it's too late. He can only watch furiously as the heroes escape with the completed spear. Back on the ship, the spear repairs itself, and a Latin phrase appears. Born of blood, undone by blood. Nate gets it instantly. To destroy the spear, they need the blood of Jesus Christ. Since going to the crucifixion is too risky, Nate has a plan B. The blood is hidden in Sir Gawain's tomb, and the only person who can help them is none other than J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings, who fought in World War I. Of course, the Legion doesn't just sit back. Thawne and Dark decide to follow the legends and grab the whole spear at once. In the field, Mick starts having visions of Snart, who tries to convince him to use the spear to bring him back. It's the little devil on Mick's shoulder in person. After kidnapping a sick Tolkien, they finally find the tomb in a church, but it's a trap. Dark and Snart, the real one, show up, explaining they knew everything because Mick blabbed to his hallucination.
The spear.
Thanks for the tip, Mick.
I didn't think he was real.
No. No need to defend yourself.
After a fight, the legends escape with an etching of Gawain's shield, which leads them back to the battlefield. The team forces a truce between the armies to search for the vial. They find it, but the Legion shows up again. And then, the worst happens. Mick betrays everyone, joins Snart, and hands over the spear. To make matters worse, Nate drops and shatters the vial of Christ's blood. Game over. The Legion has won. Welcome to Doomworld, the reality created by the Legion of Doom. In Star City 2017, Sarah and Amaya are Damien Dark's personal assassins, and he's now the mayor. Their first mission? To hunt down and kill vigilantes, and tonight's victim is Felicity. Dark even has a collection of masks as trophies. Green Arrow, The Flash, Spartan, all defeated. Meanwhile, in Central City, Eobard Thawne is the world's most famous scientist, owner of Star Labs. Malcolm Merlyn has his family back, and Snart and Mick are the kings of crime. But Mick finds it all a bore. And the other legends. Jax has become Martin Stein's abusive boss at Star Labs. Ray is the janitor, and Rip has become a drunk, depressed baker in a toy-sized Wave Rider. Out of nowhere, Nate appears with memories of the old reality and goes straight to Thawne, thinking the genius can help. Bad idea. Thawne sends Snart and Mick to get rid of him, but Mick, who also remembers everything, realizes the huge mistake he's made. He knocks out Snart and saves Nate.
Son of a...
Sorry, buddy. I owed you that.
The pair heads to Ray's basement, where he's also having flashes of his life as a hero, and has built a gun that restores memories. Mick shoots Nate, who gets up and punches him in the face. Then they shoot Ray, who does the same thing. Mick agrees he deserved it. The team starts to reassemble, rescuing Sarah and Amaya from Dark's clutches. They discover that Thawne plans to use a reactor to destroy the Spear of Destiny for good, so no one can undo this reality. The team invades Star Labs to get the spear before it's too late. A huge fight breaks out, and just when it seems they're about to succeed, Snart freezes and shatters Amaya in front of Nate. Thawne retrieves the spear and throws it into the reactor, incinerating it. He gloats, saying that now they'll have to live forever in the reality he created. Defeated, the legends can only mourn, unaware that their only hope, the Wave Rider, has become a trinket on Thawne's shelf. Rip finally manages to power up the Wave Rider, only to find it has shrunk and become a toy. Meanwhile, on Earth, the legends contact Rip, who flies to them in miniature mode. Ray realizes it instantly. Thawne must have his Atom suit. The team raids Star Labs, recovers the suit, and restores the Wave Rider to its normal size. The new plan is completely insane. Go back to 1916 and get the blood of Christ before their past selves do. It's the #1 rule of what not to do in time travel. As expected, it all goes wrong. Dawn shows up, destroys the vial, and even rips out future Ray's heart. Plan B, even crazier. Board their past selves Wave Rider and steal the spear from themselves. This causes gigantic chaos, complete with a fight between future Sarah and past Sarah. The confusion is so great it triggers a time storm, and the ship crashes. Now, both versions of the legends must unite to fight the Legion. Thawne takes things to a new level of cheat by bringing an army of his own time remnants.
Not that guy.
These guys!
In the midst of the battle, everyone insists Sarah use the spear. She enters a vision with her sister Laurel, who helps her make peace with her past. Instead of rewriting reality, Sarah does something brilliant. She depowers the spear. A smug Thawne grabs the spear, but it no longer works. Sarah gives a little smirk and says he has something else to worry about. Just then, the Black Flash appears and finally gets Thawne, erasing him from existence. With reality restored, the future legends vanish. The team returns the villains to their respective timelines, erasing their memories. Amaya decides to stay with Nate, and Rip says his goodbyes, telling Sarah she's the captain now. To celebrate, Mick picks the destination, Aruba, but a timequake hits the ship, which crash lands in Los Angeles, 2017. The problem? The city is filled with dinosaurs and buildings from different eras. Yep, looks like they broke time for good. As the team argues about how badly they've screwed things up, a T-Rex decides to make an appearance. Before Amaya can use her totem to calm the beast, a portal opens and sucks the dinosaur in. Out of another portal steps none other than Rip Hunter. He now runs the Time Bureau, a sort of Men in Black that fixes anachronisms, which he defines as people, places, and things outside of their proper time. For Rip, 5 years have passed, and in that time, he's assembled a highly competent team that has no need for the Legend's services. Basically, he fires everyone. 6 months later, life has become a drag. Sarah is working at a home decor store, fantasizing about taking out her jerk of a boss. Ray is at a Silicon Valley startup that created a Tinder clone, and his boss couldn't care less about his inventions. Nate has become a vigilante in Central City with Wally West. And Mick, he's chilling in Aruba until Julius Caesar himself shows up and blocks his son.
You're supposed to be.
I am Gaius Julius Caesar of Rome.
Thought I recognized you.
Mick calls Sarah, who doesn't think twice. She quits her job and gets the gang back together. The reunion goes down in Central City. Nate reveals that he and Amaya broke up. Sarah explains Mick's situation and proposes a plan. If they fix the Caesar problem, maybe the Time Bureau will give them the Wave Rider back. They break into the Bureau's headquarters but are cornered by Agent Ava Sharp, who doesn't seem to be a fan of their work. Rip appears and explains that Amaya returned to 1942 of her own free will. When Rip's team finds no trace of Caesar in Aruba, he kicks the Legends out, but Mick has a genuine Roman coin, proving he wasn't crazy. Plan B? Steal the Wave Rider. They grab the ship, pick up Jax and a reluctant Martin, who's about to become a grandfather, and head to Aruba, where they capture Caesar. After a lot of drama, they return Caesar to his own time, but the sly emperor steals Mate's history book. The result? The future is now dominated by the Romans. Rip and his agents try to fix it, but are captured. It's up to the Legends to save the day, and Agent Sharp, complete with Firestorm turning into a Roman god of war. In the end, Rip admits they're a chainsaw, but sometimes that's what time needs. 6 months ago, we see Amaya preparing a birthday surprise for Nate, but she ends up leaving before he gets back, leaving him heartbroken. Back in the present, the team uses tech Mick stole from the Time Bureau to find a new anachronism, a saber-toothed tiger at P.T. Barnum Circus in 1870. The plan to shrink the beast goes horribly wrong when Ray sneezes and accidentally turns the kitty into a giant cat.
Shoot it! Let's do it right! 2 more adjustments, shoot it!
With no other option, Sarah goes to 1942 to get Amaya, who is reluctant to return. Her reunion with Nate is colder than Alaska. While Amaya and Sarah track the tiger, Nate, Jax, and Ray get wasted at a bar and end up revealing their powers to P.T. Barnum. The showman, needing a blockbuster attraction, doesn't waste any time and captures the two of them for his show. Sarah and Amaya manage to shrink the tiger, but realize the guys are missing. To make matters worse, they find Gary, a Time Bureau agent spying on them. They capture him, but his boss, Ava Sharp, gets suspicious and heads over. On the Wave Rider, while Mick is making a sandwich, the mini saber-toothed tiger escapes and returns to its normal size. At the circus, Barnum forces Jax and Ray to perform, but the audience isn't impressed. To save her friends, Amaya uses her totem and transforms into a bear, sending Barnum running. Firestorm enters the scene, and the whole team reunites. With the anachronism fixed, Ava and Sarah have a tense conversation, where it becomes clear that Rip is hiding a much bigger threat. Amaya, realizing she's losing control of her powers, decides to stay with the team to figure out what's happening. In the end, a mysterious figure uses magic to bring a water-wielding woman named Kwasa, a servant of someone named Malice, back to life.
Welcome back, Kwasa.
Who are you?
things are about to get serious. We're in Seattle, 2042. The future is pretty dystopian, with a curfew for metahumans and Argus in control. Kwasa, the water woman, is hunting a metahuman and kills a few guards in the process, but her target escapes. Agent Gary from the Time Bureau sees everything and panics. On the Wave Rider, Amaya is having so much trouble controlling her powers that she wakes up stuck to the ceiling like a spider. The Legends intercept Gary's distress call and head to 2042. There, they find the city under martial law and run into the fugitive, Zari Tomaz, a hacker wanted for various offenses, including religious crimes. Being Muslim is forbidden. Zari manages to escape an Argus drone, and the Legends lose the agents. They find Zari in a bar, but Kwasa shows up. While Sarah fights her, the rest of the team flees with Zari. She agrees to help them catch Kwasa on one condition. The Legends must help her break her brother out of an Argus prison. Meanwhile, Nate convinces Amaya to go on a spiritual journey with hallucinogens to understand her totem. The rescue mission at the prison turns out to be a setup. Zari just wanted to retrieve her late brother's amulet, a totem that controls the wind. The team is divided, but Jax convinces them not to hand Zari over. In her vision, Amaya discovers that her totem's power is growing with the threat and that she needs to find Zari. Ray finds Zari, but Kwasa appears. The Time Bureau, with Ava in command, tries to stop the Wave Rider from helping. Sarah isn't intimidated and flies the ship straight at the Bureau, forcing Ava to back down. Amaya arrives and easily defeats Kwasa, who drops an enigmatic line before vanishing. "I'd only be killing myself." Zari joins the team, and in a flashback, we see a young Ray Palmer finding a strange creature in a sewer in 1988. The Legends are on the Wave Rider trying to do team building exercises like those HR trust falls. Just as Mick is about to fall into Ray's arms, the guy just vanishes. Gideon informs them that Ray was killed as a child, erasing him from existence. The team doesn't hesitate and goes back to 1988 to prevent Ray's death. They arrive the day before his disappearance, which makes the adult Ray reappear on the ship, completely confused. The team gets decked out in 80s gear and starts investigating. Mick and Jax follow little Ray, who gets caught shoplifting candy from a newsstand. Shortly after, he's surrounded by bullies, while Ray, Nate, and Zari watch from a distance. Adult Ray spies on his younger self at home and discovers the secret. The kid is feeding something under his bed, and that something is a baby Dominator, the same alien species that has caused trouble for everyone before. Back on the ship, the debate is over what to do with the creature. Jax suspects Stein is hiding something, and Mick, with his less than subtle methods, finds out the professor has been using a communicator to talk to his daughter, who was about to give birth. Meanwhile, Ray and Zari break into young Ray's house to get the alien, which the boy has named Gumball. The problem is, adult Ray shrinks and becomes a toy for the Dominator. Ray's mom arrives, and to keep her from discovering the alien, Nate and Amaya show up at the door pretending to be salespeople to distract her. But things get worse. Gumball's mother, a giant Dominator, appears and reads Sarah's mind, finding out where her child is. She disguises herself as Ray's mom and lures Nate into a trap. In the middle of the chaos, young Ray manages to make the government agents who captured him dance to Singin' in the Rain, saving Gumball. In the end, the baby alien is returned to its mother. Stein gets to see his grandchild being born, and to top it all off, the Legends take young Ray trick-or-treating for Halloween, all in costume. After all this madness, Jax asks Ray for help to separate Firestorm, so Stein can finally be with his family. The scene opens in London, 1895. A woman is running for her life, and the person chasing her is none other than Rip Hunter. They stumble upon a bloodless corpse with 2 bite marks on its neck. The obvious conclusion: vampires.
What do you make of that?
Improbably, it appears that our killer is a vampire.
On the Wave Rider, Ray is trying to create a serum to separate Firestorm, while Zari is obsessed with going back to 2041 to save her brother. Nate, the team historian, discovers a time anomaly in 1895 linked to vampires, and off they go to investigate. Dressed as police officers, they find a smartwatch in the morgue, realizing the Time Bureau has already been there. At the cemetery, surprise, Rip Hunter climbs out of a grave, asking for help. He explains he's on an unsanctioned mission to hunt a greater evil, someone named Mawis, and that the vampires are part of it. To lure the vampire, the team uses Nate as bait. The plan, of course, goes wrong. Nate is kidnapped by an ancestor of Professor Stein. Meanwhile, Zari is tricked by a psychic who claims she can speak to her dead brother, but actually just wants her totem. The big reveal: there are no vampires. It's all a cult to resurrect Damien Dark. Curtis, back in Star City, calls to confirm. The ceremony begins, and chaos ensues. Rip locks down the Wave Rider to prevent the resurrection, but Sarah, in a screw-it moment, tells Jax to blow the cargo bay door so they can get out. They arrive too late. Dark is resurrected and immediately starts kicking ass. Zari gets her totem back, but Dark and the Psychic escape. In the end, Rip is arrested by Agent Sharp of the Time Bureau, who thinks this whole Malice story is a fabrication. But before she leaves, she gives the Legends carte blanche to travel through time as they see fit. After the dust settles, Jax and Stein finally agree to work together to separate themselves. We're in Hollywood, 1937. A movie extra steals a scene, and when the director asks her name, she replies, Helen of Troy. Yes, that Helen. This causes an anachronism, and the Legends head out to investigate. To complicate things, one of Ray's experiments goes wrong, and Jax and Stein switch bodies. It's a classic body swap comedy, but in the middle of a mission, Helen's presence in Hollywood is causing a studio war and erasing actress Hedy Lamarr from history. And why does that matter? Because without her inventions, Gideon simply wouldn't exist. The team finds Damien Dark acting as Helen's agent, with his daughter Nora and Quassa in tow. While Sarah tries to negotiate with Dark, the men on the team start fighting among themselves over Helen. In a scene worthy of a cartoon, the women of the team, Sarah, Zari, and Amaya, try to convince Helen to return to her own time, but Quassa, who reveals herself to be Amaya's granddaughter, invades the Wave Rider to steal the totem. The fight is intense. Elsewhere, Stein, in Jax's body, tries to help Hedy Lamarr land a role to save the timeline. Damien and Nora show up to ruin everything. Just as Nora is about to kill Sarah, Hedy convinces Jax and Stein to merge. Firestorm emerges, saves the day, and as a bonus, the fusion fixes the body swap.
I do now.
You did it.
You're a genius. Forming Firestorm has restored us to our rightful bodies.
On the ship, Helen helps drive Quassa out. The timeline is restored when Hedy gets a movie role, but Zari, instead of taking Helen back to the Trojan War, decides to give her a better ending. She leaves her on Themyscira, the island of the Amazons, basically Wonder Woman's home, a brilliant solution that shows that sometimes the Legends know how to fix history the right way. Cut to the Wave Rider, where Jax and Stein are trying to figure out how to split up Firestorm, like a country duo wanting to go solo. Meanwhile, Amaya is training, and Nate comes over to talk about her evil granddaughter, Quassa. The conversation is cut short because Zari made a little mess in the timeline. Instead of returning Helen of Troy to Troy, she took her to Themyscira, Wonder Woman's island. Zari swears she didn't change a thing, but the team keeps an eye on her. Suddenly, Gideon flags a timeline error. Vietnam, 1968. The team travels there and meets a local guide who leads them into the jungle. Along the way, Mick is super grumpy, and Nate finds out why. Mick's father served in Vietnam, and he's afraid of running into him. And as if it were a cosmic joke, who shows up? Mick's dad. To make matters worse, Mick tells Nate that in his original timeline, he killed his own father. Awkward. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Stein has completely lost it and brought Isaac Newton and other scientists from the past to help solve the Firestorm equation. Back in the jungle, Zari, Amaya, and Ray discover that the Brute is none other than Gorilla Grodd. The Big Ape is using technology to control soldiers and plans to kill the President of the United States. The anachronism escalates to level 10, threatening to start World War III. Amaya tries to reason with Grodd, but he mind controls her. The situation descends into chaos. Grodd hijacks the Wave Rider. Sarah wakes from a coma possessed by him and attacks Stein, only to be knocked out by Isaac Newton. Yes, the Apple guy. In the midst of the army's bombardment, the Wave Rider manages to knock Grodd into a napalm fire. Mick convinces his father not to do anything stupid, and the team regroups. In the end, Grodd survives and is rescued by Damien Dark. In other words, the problem just got bigger. It's Christmas Eve, 1992, and a young Martin Stein is in line to buy a Cuddle Me Bebo, the hot new toy every kid wants. He manages to grab the last one, but is chased by desperate parents and is suddenly teleported to the year 1000 AD into the middle of a Viking horde. On the Wave Rider, Leo Snart is trying to play teen therapist, but a level 12 anachronism interrupts the session. North America has been conquered by Vikings and is now called New Valhalla. The reason? They've abandoned Christianity to worship a blue god. And who is this god? The Bebo doll. The team travels back in time and rescues young Stein, but Bebo gets left behind. The plan is to infiltrate the Viking celebration to retrieve the toy. Agent Sharp from the Time Bureau shows up to help, revealing that the anachronism has turned Christmas into Bebo Day. During the party, Mick gets caught trying to steal and is nearly roasted, but Snart saves him. A brawl breaks out and Mick, out of of patience, incinerates Bebo. Just when everything seems resolved, lightning strikes and Damien Dark appears, declaring himself Odin and promising to lead the Vikings to conquest. The hero's plan B is genius. Use a new Bebo controlled by a shrunken ray to trick the Vikings.
Anyway, you need to return to Greenland, which will soon be melting thanks to global warming, which is also real.
The battle is chaotic. Sarah manages to grab Dark as he flees and is pulled into a dark dimension, where a sinister voice introduces itself as Malice. Agent Sharp rescues her just in time. Meanwhile, Jax has taken young Stein back to 1992 and tried to give him a letter to prevent his future death. But in an emotional conversation, young Stein reveals he burned the letter. He understands he will have a life full of adventure and friends, and tells Jax he needs to move on. Getting the message, Jax decides to leave the Legends. The team says goodbye with an impromptu Christmas party, and when Sarah gets back to the ship, she finds none other than John Constantine, who needs her help with a demon that, mysteriously, knows her name. We cut to John Constantine, the trench-coated magician, breaking into an asylum to perform an exorcism on a little girl he calls Emily, but the demon in her body is a real smartass, throwing Constantine's past failures in his face, and even sending a message to Sarah Lance. The asylum director shows up and kicks Constantine out. On the Wave Rider, Constantine explains the situation. Mick, as usual, mistakes him for Rip Hunter. After all, they're both skinny Brits in trench coats. The magician explains that the demon knows Sarah, which is why he needs her help. Sarah, fed up with demons, refuses. But when Constantine mentions the name Malice, she changes her tune immediately. They've been hunting this guy for a while. Back at the asylum, the team uncovers the truth. Emily is actually Nora Dark, Damien's daughter.
Is Nora friggin' Dark.
To make matters worse, Kwasa shows up to protect the girl and ensure she remains possessed. In the middle of the fight, Malice shows his power and sends Sarah, Constantine, and Leo on a one-way trip to 1969. In the past, the trio is trapped with no tech. The only idea is to leave a message hidden behind a painting for the future teen to find. Meanwhile, Sarah starts having hallucinations as Malice tries to possess her. Constantine gives her a pep talk, telling her she's strong enough to fight back, and the tension gets so thick they end up hooking up. To fix their predicament, Sarah has a crazy idea. Let Malice possess her just a little bit to use his power to cast a spell back to the future. She enters the demon's realm, finds the spirit of a young Nora, and convinces her to fight. The plan works, and they return to 2017 just in time to see Damien Dark appear, grab his daughter, and leave with her. To top it all off, Leo decides to return to Earth X to propose to the Ray, and Sarah discovers that Rip Hunter has escaped from prison. Zari is on chore duty, maintaining the ship, but instead, she's trying to install a program to hack the timeline and find a way to save her brother. But things go south. The entire ship explodes. Suddenly, Zari wakes up again, in the same spot, having the same argument with Sarah. Yep, she's stuck in a time loop, just like in the movie Groundhog Day, after exploding and reliving the moment several times, and being sedated by the teen who thinks she's lost her mind. Zari finally gets some help. She finds Nate and drops the password, Groundhog Day. Together, they start investigating the crew. The conclusion? Mick isn't a terrorist. He's secretly writing a sci-fi romance novel, and Sarah isn't plotting anything. She's just doing crossword puzzles and flirting with Ava over the phone. Sick of dying over and over, Zari decides to use the loop to have some fun. She learns to play the violin, reads Mick's book, and even gets all dressed up, since there are no consequences. But the fun and games eventually get old. She breaks down in front of everyone, explaining the situation, and, to everyone's surprise, Sarah believes her. The team starts looking for a bomb and finds Gary from the Time Bureau stuck in the trash compactor. It turns out his device caused the loop, but he was there to warn them about a real bomb. And now that the loop is over, the next explosion is for real. With time running out, Zari grabs the bomb, locks herself in a cabin, and gives a touching farewell speech, telling everyone how she feels. She braces for the end, but nothing happens. She wakes up in a white room with Gideon in human form. Plot twist, it was all a simulation. Gideon created this scenario for Zari to bond with the team so she wouldn't jump ship, as she's essential to defeating Malice. The only real part, Gary's stuck in the trash because Gideon thought it would be funny. In the end, Rip Hunter finds Wally West meditating in a monastery and invites him to help save the universe.
Who are you? My name is Rip Hunter. I am trying to save the universe, and I need your help.
The story kicks off in 1717 with the pirate Blackbeard. He finds an incredible emerald necklace, the Earth Totem, and puts it on his beloved Anne. Bad idea. The jewel turns the woman into a plant monster that he has to bury along with the rest of his treasure. Back on the Wave Rider, the legends discover they need 2 more totems. The Fire Totem, which Damien Darhk gets first, and the Earth Totem, which is with Blackbeard. The team decides to go to 1717 to get the totem, but without telling Sarah, who's trying to have a romantic date with Ava. Far away, Rip Hunter gets Wally West drunk to convince him to steal a few things from the Time Bureau for him. The night ends with the two of them singing Careless Whisper at a karaoke bar in Japan. In the past, the legends find Blackbeard, but Damien Darhk also shows up, steals Amaya's totem, and finds the location of the Earth Totem. In the midst of the chaos, the Wave Rider is damaged and has to time jump, leaving Mick and Amaya behind. The two are unfazed. They recruit a pirate crew, steal Blackbeard's ship, and go after the treasure. Meanwhile, Darhk digs up Anne's body, but the zombie plant woman wakes up and attacks everyone.
Again.
Ray and Nate finally manage to return to the island to help. Ray, feeling guilty for shooting Nora Darhk with his anti-magic gun, makes a risky deal. He offers Damien a cure for Nora in exchange for Amaya's totem. Damien, surprisingly, accepts. Ray cures Nora, but as soon as she wakes up, she tries to drain his life force. Damien himself has to intervene and tell his daughter to get a grip. With the situation resolved, Amaya, now free from the constraints of her totem and her destiny, finally gives in to her romance with Nate. And on the Wave Rider, Sarah and Ava are having coffee when they notice dirty dishes in the sink. This is weird, because Ray loves doing the dishes. Zari mentions she hasn't seen him either. Gideon reports that she doesn't know where he is, and at that moment, the Time Bureau calls. Agent Gary Green has found a bottle with a cell phone inside. The message is from Ray. He's been kidnapped by Damien and Nora Darhk and is asking them not to rescue him or he's a goner. Meanwhile, we see Ray being tortured. The Darks can't get the spirit totem to work. Kwasa explains that until Nora has an altruistic reason, the totem won't obey. Damien then takes an interest in the broken fire totem. Kwasa is afraid of him, but says a brilliant mind could fix it. That's when they remember they have a genius as a prisoner. Back on the ship, Rip Hunter and Wally West show up to help stop Malice. In captivity, Ray refuses to help but gives in when Damien threatens his family. The only way to fix the totem is with energy from the Big Bang, or cold fusion. The problem? Damien himself killed the scientist who invented it back in 1962, a guy named Vogel. The plan is to go back in time and stop the younger version of Damien from killing the scientist. Nora volunteers to go with Ray. In 1962, the mission turns into chaos. In the middle of a fight with German agents, the younger Damien appears outside, killing everyone. Ray, Nora, and Vogel manage to escape through a window. The drama escalates when the older Damien travels to 1962 to see what happened and ends up revealing himself. Later, the younger Damien kidnaps Nora and demands a trade for the scientist. During the confrontation, Nora, in an act of self-sacrifice to save her father, unlocks the power of the spirit totem and saves her own skin. The scientist dies, but not before handing Ray a doll containing the cold fusion formula. To escape, Ray blows up the Berlin Wall, causing a timequake that finally alerts the legends. Wally shows up at the speed of light and rescues Ray.
You're gonna want to hold on.
See ya.
Back on the ship, Wally reveals that in the confusion, he also managed to steal the fire totem from the Darks. In Memphis in the 1950s, a young man named Elvis Presley buys a guitar said to be cursed. Little does he know it's about to mess up all of history. On the Wave Rider, things are bizarre. Guitar Hero has become Trombone Hero, and Mick's pet rat is now named Josh Groban. Gideon reports that rock and roll never existed, and Memphis has become a ghost town. The legends travel to 1954 and discover the source of the problem. Elvis's guitar is actually the 6th lost totem, the Death Totem, and it's haunted by the ghost of the king of rock and roll's deceased twin brother Jesse. Wally, always in a hurry, steals the guitar, but Nate realizes that without it, Elvis will never become famous. They create a replica, but Elvis's show is a disaster. He says he could only connect with his brother through the original guitar. The team returns the totem in time for the recording session, which is a success, but Elvis's uncle, who's a preacher, thinks rock is the devil's music, steals the recording, and has Elvis, Nate, and Amaya arrested. The mission is now twofold: get the record back and make rock happen. Zari and Wally go after the uncle. Wally, using his charm instead of his super speed, convinces the preacher to hand over the record. Then, he speeds to the radio station and puts the song on the air. But the sound of the death totem attracts all the ghosts from the cemetery who invade the town. The solution? Elvis himself. He sings Amazing Grace, and his voice, amplified by the totem, sends the spirits back to the great beyond, including his brother Jesse.
Forever. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you very much.
With history back on track, a grateful Elvis gives the death totem to the legends. The team celebrates having secured a totem before the Darks and locks it away in a special vault. Sarah wakes up from a nightmare and starts hearing a strange humming that draws her to the death totem. A dark version of herself appears, like a little devil on her shoulder, and convinces her to take the totem. Bad idea. She's instantly possessed by Malice. Sarah Malice destroys the lab, puts Ray in a coma, and locks the rest of the team in the medbay. She defeats Amaya, Mick, and even Wally, who is tricked by a vision of his ex. Meanwhile, Ava and Gary hunt down John Constantine to ask for help. He explains that the death totem is basically a VIP pass for Malice and that the situation is critical. Inside Sarah's mind, Nora Dark appears to try and recruit her to the dark side. On the outside, the team tries everything. Nate attempts to use the earth totem, but it doesn't work, and he gets his ass kicked. The last hope is the fire totem. Amaya realizes the totem isn't for her, but for Mick. After a motivational speech, our favorite arsonist accepts his heroic side and becomes the new wielder of the fire totem. Constantine and Ava arrive on the ship for the exorcism. The fight is intense, but the tide turns when Mick, with his new powers, hits Sarah Malice with a massive blast of fire. Ava's voice manages to reach the real Sarah, who finally expels the demon from her body. Sarah is saved. But the trauma remains. She breaks up with Ava, telling her she's too dark for her and leaving her heartbroken. The only person who seems to be having any fun is Constantine, who ends the episode playing Dungeons and Dragons with Gary. After the whole ordeal with the death totem and her breakup with Ava, Sarah is taking some time off from the Wave Rider to clear her head. In her absence, Amaya steps up as acting captain. In the kitchen, Mick is using his new fire totem powers to cook, basically acting as a human stove. Meanwhile, Amaya's granddaughter, Mari, gets seriously injured in a fight in 2018. Amaya is distraught, blaming herself for losing the totem, and decides to go talk to her granddaughter. Nate warns that this could screw up the timeline, but Amaya brushes him off, playing the I'm the captain card. Meanwhile, Sarah is trying to leave the ship when Agent Gary pops up out of nowhere, blindfolded so he won't see Sarah and Ava together. Sarah tells him they broke up, and Gary reveals that Ava has gone missing from work. They break into the Time Bureau and discover Ava's personnel file has been deleted from inside the Wave Rider. The mystery gets weirder when they visit Ava's parents, who confess to being hired actors. Sarah steals Ava's temporal courier and discovers a blocked mission in 2213, a forbidden zone. The only way to get there is by hijacking the Time Bureau's mothership. And that's exactly what they do. Arriving in 2213, they come face to face with a multitude of women identical to Ava. Ray wonders what kind of world would have so many copies of her, and Gary blurts out, "Paradise?" But Sarah, as the ex, thinks it's more like hell. A commercial reveals the truth. Ava is a clone. Elsewhere, Kuasa sets a trap for Nate and hands him over to the Darks in exchange for her grandmother's totem.
I thought that losing this totem was the greatest threat to me and my family. That you were in love with my Nanaba.
But Kuasa has a crisis of conscience and sacrifices herself to save Amaya from Malice, declaring that family is the true power, right before a possessed Nora kills her. Back on the Wave Rider, Ava is in shock over the revelation. Sarah convinces her not to erase her memory, suspecting that Rip Hunter is behind everything. To top it all off, Amaya, fed up with everything, steals a jump ship and travels to 1992, determined to save her family, no matter the cost. Red alert on the Wave Rider. Amaya has stolen the jump ship and gone to 1992 Zambezi to prevent the destruction of her village. As if that weren't enough, Rip calls for help because Gorilla Grodd is trying to kill none other than Barack Obama in 1979. The team splits up, Nate and Wally go after Amaya while the rest go to save the future president. In the past, the legends shrink Grodd and save Obama. That's when Damien Darhk appears, but not to fight. He's desperate and asks for their help to save his daughter Nora, who is being consumed by Malice. As a gesture of good faith, he hands over the water totem. Meanwhile, in Zambezi, Amaya is determined to change history. Zari even tries running a simulation to find a loophole, but there's no way. Nate, tired of following the rules, decides to back Amaya and tells history to take a hike. Back on the ship, Sarah doesn't trust Darhk, but after a philosophical chat with a young Obama, she agrees to the alliance. The plan to trick Malice is brilliantly meta. They go to 1999 New Zealand and recruit actor John Noble, the actual voice of Malice, to record some fake lines. Ray shrinks down, enters Nora's ear, and plays the recording, convincing her to go to the Wave Rider, where they imprison her. But Darhk is a villain to the end. To ensure Malice is freed, he unleashes the shrunken Grodd in Zambezi to attack the village. A massive brawl ensues. The older Amaya nearly dies but survives and regains her memories of Nate. In the chaos, Darhk frees Nora and escapes, but Sarah stabs him. With the timeline altered, Malice is finally freed from his vessel and assumes his demonic form.
Can't help her, Ray. Oh my God.
I am so much more.
Malice is free, and all hell breaks loose. The legends try to fight, but the demon is too powerful. In a heroic act, Rip Hunter sacrifices himself, using the Wave Rider's time core to blow himself up along with Malice, giving the team a chance to escape. Sarah's plan? Hide out in the Old West. There, they meet up with Jonah Hex and think they'll find some peace, but Malice sends an army of possessed historical figures after them: Blackbeard, Julius Caesar, and Freitas. A massive fight is inevitable. Meanwhile, Ray takes Damien Darhk back in time on a secret mission to save Nora. Damien succeeds, but the price is high. Malice possesses his body instead. In a spiritual journey, Amaya and Nate discover that the 6 totems, when used together, can create a being of pure light to defeat Malice. Just when they need it most, Ava shows up with reinforcements: Jax, who is now a father, a good-aligned Quasa, and a warrior Helen of Troy. The first attempt to create the light being goes wrong, and they create a bizarre monster. But on the second try, something magical happens. All the legends, without realizing it, think of the same thing, and from the center of the totem circle emerges a giant Bebo.
I love you.
That's right, the final battle is a giant demon versus a giant plush toy. Bebo fights Malice, gives him a deadly cuddle, and they both explode in a cloud of blue, heart-shaped glitter. The demon is defeated. After the battle, Amaya decides to return to her time, but in a tearful farewell with Nate, she chooses not to erase her memories of him. The team takes a well-deserved vacation in Aruba, but the peace is short-lived. Gary and John Constantine show up with the head of a dragon, warning that when they released Malice, he wasn't the only thing that escaped. The legends are chilling, enjoying a Beatles concert in the US, when the most random mission in history comes up. They have to return Paul Revere to 1776. After that, life on the Wave Rider becomes a total bore. Mick and Nate are itching for some real action, dreaming of the monsters Constantine predicted. Suddenly, Agent Sharp summons everyone to Washington, D.C. The team assumes they're in for a lecture, but it's actually a surprise party to congratulate the heroes. Meanwhile, Ray is reading Nora's file, and a mysterious Zari implies she knows he helped the villain escape. Elsewhere, Ava asks Sarah to move in with her. Sarah hesitates but agrees. But when she goes to get the champagne, she runs into John Constantine in the galley. He drops some cryptic warnings about the future, and leaves behind some bizarre bones that start to shake. Later, Sarah and Gary realize a monster might be on the loose in Woodstock, 1969. Ray and Zari go to investigate and find a dead hippie covered in goo. Things get serious when the rest of the team arrives and they find the creature, a unicorn.
Well, it's not a dragon. It'll have to do.
No, Mick, hold on. It's not like it's hurting anyone.
But this is no My Little Pony. It's a killer unicorn that impales a hippie and eats her. It then sprays the teen with a rainbow-colored goo and escapes. The goo turns out to be a hallucinogen. Nate starts seeing Mick as his father, and Mick sees Nate as his old pet rat. To deal with the bad trip, Constantine explains they need an antidote, and the final ingredient is a virgin. Since they can't find one in Woodstock, they bring Gary from the future to serve as bait. The plan works. Constantine lures the unicorn with Gary, casts a spell, and sends the creature straight to hell. In the end, Sarah confesses to Ava about the monsters they released. haste, and the two decide to postpone moving in together. Constantine, meanwhile, is attacked by an invisible force that leaves a message on the mirror. "I'm coming for you, Johnny." The teen creates a kind of GPS to hunt magical fugitives, and the first alert points to Salem, 1692, the infamous land of the witch trials. Meanwhile, Nate tries to reconnect with his father, and Constantine and Mick have a bro therapy session that only proves they hate each other. In Salem, the legends suspect that the daughter of an accused witch, Prudence, is possessed. Constantine immediately tries a spell, but instead of a demon, he summons a fairy godmother, just like in Cinderella. The fairy starts singing but warns that if she's sent to hell, she's taking the girl with her, and she magically traps the legends in trees. Zari manages to convince Prudence to free them.
Wait. Release them.
As you wish.
Far away at the Time Bureau, Nate's father, who's with the Department of Defense, cuts all of Ava's funding due to a lack of evidence. The situation in Salem worsens. Zari tries to help Prudence's mother but ends up captured and sentenced to be burned at the stake. The fairy godmother, manipulating Prudence, turns Ray and Mick into pigs and magically silences Constantine. When all seems lost, Nate discovers the pig Ray on the Wave Rider and rushes him to his father. In Salem, Zari and Sarah are about to be barbecued when Prudence and the fairy appear. Zari gives an inspiring speech about not becoming like the villains, and a moved Prudence dismisses the fairy's services. At that exact moment, Ray turns back to normal in front of Nate's father, who, in shock, approves a $4.2 billion budget for the Bureau. Constantine tries to convince the fairy to join him, but she'd rather go to hell than be near someone being hunted by a mysterious entity. To wrap things up, Nate gets a desk job at the Bureau. In London during the 1970s, we see a young Queen Elizabeth attending a punk rock show. This messes with the timeline, turning the monarchy into anarchy. The legends head out to fix history, and their mission is to infiltrate a punk band called The Smell. After a brawl, the band steals the legends' van with Ray still inside. The plan changes. Ray, the ultimate goody two-shoes, has to go undercover as a punk. Meanwhile, Nate is hating his new desk job and convinces Gary to embark on a secret mission, calling themselves the Time Brothers. To prove his worth to the band, Ray has to steal one of the Queen's corgis. With Sarah's help, he succeeds.
My word, that young man stole a royal corgi. Good choice.
As a reward, he gets a tattoo and discovers the band's real plan, to steal the crown jewels. The band's leader, Charlie, is actually the magical creature they're after, a shapeshifter. Ray grows fond of her and hesitates to turn her in. When the legends raid their hideout, Ray starts fighting them, but it's actually Charlie in disguise. The team corners her, but to avoid being sent to hell, she transforms into Amaya, Nate's ex-girlfriend. The low blow works. They imprison her on the Wave Rider, but an irritated Constantine casts a spell that traps her in Amaya's form. Making the mood even more awkward, Ray confesses to helping Nora escape. Sarah visits Nate and discovers he left the team because everything on the ship reminded him of Amaya. Lacking the courage to tell him that Amaya is now a prisoner on the Wave Rider, Sarah leaves him to his new job. In the end, Zari shows a bit of compassion and gives Constantine a picture of him with his mother, whom he briefly met at the bar. We open on a couple making out at a summer camp, straight out of a B horror movie. Suddenly, a monster emerges from the lake and attacks them. But relax, it's just a movie Sarah and Ava are watching. Sarah pauses it and discovers the film is based on a real attack from 1995. Right on cue, Gideon alerts them to an anachronism at that same place and date. Time to get to work. Sarah invites Ava to join the legends on the mission. On the Wave Rider, Sarah introduces Ava to the ship's new guest, Charlie, who is still stuck in Amaya's form. The team then assembles and heads to Camp Ogawa in 1995, ready to pose as counselors and figure out what's going on. While the team tries to blend in with the kids, a perpetually goth Constantine creates a salt barrier around the camp. That night, two kids sneak into the woods to make out and they vanish. The next day, the legends realize several children are missing. The camp director, she thinks it's perfectly normal, saying it happens every year. Constantine tries to hypnotize the kids for information, while Sarah attempts a friendlier approach. Ava, however, goes full drill sergeant, lining up the girls for an interrogation. Meanwhile, on the ship, Charlie manages to trick Zari and escape her cell, but Mick, acting like a club bouncer, catches her and brings her back. At the camp, one of the girls finally spills the beans to Sarah and Ava about the legend of a lake monster. That night, Ava goes to the dock back alone to test the legend, but it turns out to be just a prank by the campers. The next day, Ray and Constantine find a reptilian skin in the woods. To get more info, Sarah and Ava drink one of Constantine's potions and turn into teenagers. They find out the missing kids followed a string leading into the forest, a secret spot for a first kiss. They follow the string and come face to face with the camp director and attack her, but Charlie shows up and warns them. The monster isn't an old lady, but a handsome young man. Sure enough, the head counselor appears and reveals himself to be the monster. Constantine and Ray find the kids in a cabin and use a spell to revive them. This weakens the monster, allowing Sarah and Ava to take him down, but one of the children doesn't wake up. Constantine then sacrifices himself, giving his own life force to the boy. But being Constantine, he wakes up shortly after. The scene opens in Tokyo, 1951. A group of pearl divers is attacked by a giant kaiju in classic Godzilla style. Back on the Wave Rider, Constantine is still unwell, and Ray gets the idea to call Nora Dark for help. Gideon locates her in 2018, and Ray goes after her. Shortly after, Gideon alerts them to the kaiju attack in 1951. The Legend's mission is simple: go there and retrieve the film footage of the monster to prevent mass panic. Meanwhile, at the Time Bureau, Hank Haywood, Nate's father, is conducting an inspection and complaining about the costs. He takes the opportunity to invite Ava to his family's Thanksgiving dinner. The Legends arrive in 1951 disguised as film producers. They discover that the tape with the monster footage has been lost. While Zari and Mick distract the director, Sarah and Charlie search for the recording. Charlie finds the reel, and as they watch it, they see a giant tentacle emerge from the water. In 2018, Ray finds Nora working at a Renaissance fair and asks for her help. At the Haywood dinner, Nate and Ava try to act natural. Ray brings Nora to the Wave Rider. At first, Constantine refuses her help, but he passes out immediately after. The Legends head to Tokyo Bay and see the film's director, a Mr. Honda, throwing fish into the water. Suddenly, a book flies out of the water and into his hand. Charlie recognizes it, a Celtic artifact that turns imagination into reality. The director created the monster to make his movie more realistic. At the Bureau, the magical prisoners escape, and Nate has to ditch dinner to help out. Back on the ship, Nora refuses to heal Constantine if it means killing someone. The kaiju, which they name Tagumo, attacks the studio. Sarah sends Charlie to distract the beast so she can shrink it, but Charlie flees. The monster grabs Sarah, but Charlie has a change of heart, returns, throws a brick at the creature and distracts it, giving Sarah the chance to shoot and shrink it. Ray comes up with a plan for Nora to use the Wave Rider's energy to heal Constantine, and it works. At the Bureau, Hank finds Nate and the others having dinner with the monsters, who were just hungry. Inspired by the director, Mick starts writing in the magic book and creates a warrior princess who defeats the kaiju for good. With Constantine healed, Ray gives Nora a time courier so she can escape, but she uses it to turn herself in. In the end, Hank makes a mysterious phone call and says that Project Hades is a go. Mona gets a promotion at the Time Bureau after her actions in the previous episode. Ava gives her a tour, introducing her to some of the prisoners, including Nora Dark. Sarah shows up at Ava's office to celebrate her birthday. Things start to heat up, but Hank Haywood, Nate's dad, barges in. Sarah has to hide under the desk in a super awkward scene. Hank is furious about the Bureau's spending and demands that Nate take him to the Wave Rider. The team panics, trying to hide Charlie. The plan fails, and Nate has to pretend Charlie is his ex-girlfriend to throw his dad off. The team splits up. Sarah, Nate, Mick, and Hank travel to Paris in 1927 to investigate an anachronism. There they meet Salvador Dali, who claims to have seen a giant man. Hank, however, is more excited to meet his favorite author, Ernest Hemingway. He and Mick end up drinking with the writer and let it slip that they're hunting a monster. Hemingway, of course, insists on tagging along. Meanwhile, Mona visits Nora and gives her a letter from Ray. Nora gets angry and uses her powers to destroy her cell. Ava, who was nearby, ends up trapped with Mona and Nora. In Paris, Maid and Charlie argue but end up finding the Fitzgeralds, who tell them the legend of a Minotaur. In the catacombs, the team comes face to face with the beast and a fight breaks out. Hank is injured and taken back to the Wave Rider. In the cell, Ava, Mona, and Nora start drinking wine and surprisingly begin to bond. Constantine creates a potion that smells like a female minotaur to lure the monster, and the plan is for Nate to use his loot to put it to sleep. The plan almost works, but Hemingway, ever helpful, fires his gun and wakes the beast. It turns out Ray was hiding inside the letter Mona delivered and helps the girls escape the cell. The minotaur is about to attack Nate when Hank appears with a guitar and starts singing a James Taylor song. The music calms the beast, saving the day. Hank finally manages to connect with his son, not through strength, but through art. The mission ends with the team celebrating with a pizza party. Constantine is having strange dreams about a man he once knew, but is suddenly woken up by Charlie. The two, as usual, are getting drunk on the Wave Rider. Meanwhile, in the galley, Ray has grown a mustache because he received a letter from Nora saying she loves mustaches. He's reading a cereal box with facts about serial killers and comes across a name, Marie Laveau. Ava has never heard of her, but Gideon confirms it. A fugitive is causing a murder spree in New Orleans, 1856. So off the legends go. Upon arriving, Constantine starts having hallucinations. He enters an alley and is knocked out with gas. When he wakes up, he's in front of Marie Laveau herself, a powerful mystic. She wants to know why he has her talisman. With no patience for small talk, she delves into his memories and discovers the truth. The talisman was a gift from Desmond, her descendant, and Constantine's ex-boyfriend. Marie then makes a deal. She'll help the legends if Constantine saves Desmond. As a bonus, she reveals the killer is a Dybbuk, a malevolent spirit. Meanwhile, Sarah, Ray, Ava, and Mick are at a party to catch the killer. Ray follows a suspect but gets distracted by a crying little girl. He enters a room to help, and the girl drops a bombshell. Her doll is going to kill her mother. Before Ray can process this bizarre information, another doll appears from behind and knocks him out with a ladle. Sarah bursts into the room, finds Ray unconscious, and the killer doll lunges at her with a knife. She manages to stop the attack, and Mick, without a second thought, incinerates the doll with his heat gun. Back on the ship, the doll's spirit escapes and possesses a ventriloquist dummy of Professor Stein. The dummy attacks Ava, but Mick stops it, and it flees. To make matters worse, Constantine reveals he must prevent himself from ever meeting Desmond, because after they met, a demon named Neron began hunting him. And the final twist, it wasn't Neron who sent Desmond to hell. It was Constantine himself who was forced to do it. What a mess. Brace yourself for a time travel trip crazier than usual, because Constantine broke everything. He saved his ex Desmond from going to hell, and in doing so, created a catastrophic butterfly effect. The first change? Zari has turned into a cat, literally. Charlie, who has regained her shape-shifting powers, goes to Las Vegas in 1962 and finds the Legends, who are now the custodians of the chronology, a sort of extermination squad for magical creatures. They kill a leprechaun in front of her without batting an eye. It turns out that by saving Desmond, Constantine never joined the Legends. Without his help, Sarah died fighting a unicorn at Woodstock, and the traumatized team became a band of killers. Charlie and Cat Zari try to fix things, but each attempt only makes it worse. In the first, they save Sarah, but the men die, and the women form the Sirens of Space-Time, who also kill magical creatures. In another, Zari becomes a puppet. Yes, a puppet, along with the rest of the team who are now the Puppets of Tomorrow. It's a hilarious and tragic mess.
Puppets of Tomorrow, Puppets of Tomorrow today. Welcome to DC's Puppets of Tomorrow.
After several bizarre timelines where someone always dies, Zari finally convinces Constantine to do the right thing. He needs to let Desmond go to hell to fix history. Charlie, however, doesn't want to lose her powers again, and tries to stop him. In the midst of the chaos, she realizes the missing piece. Since Constantine never joined the team, the Legends also never met her. That's why they hunt all magical creatures, including her. In the end, Constantine tricks time, fixes the past, and the timeline returns to normal, with Sarah kicking a possessed Stein dummy again. But the piece is short-lived. In the final scene, we discover that Nate's father, Hank, is working with the demon Neron, who now possesses the body of none other than Desmond. The trouble is just getting started. Mona is in deep trouble. The Time Bureau believes she set Konane, the Hawaiian man-beast, free, and Gary shows up to fire her. But Mona is no fool. She steals Gary's memory wiper, fries his brain with multiple flashes, grabs his coat and temporal courier, and bolts. She finds Konane, but the Legends show up and arrest her. Gideon then points to an anomaly in Mexico, 1961, and that's where they head, taking Mona with them. And guess who's in Mexico? Konane, who has become a lucha libre star named El Lobo. His presence has messed up history, turning a legendary wrestler, El Cura, into an alcoholic. Meanwhile, Zari and Nate investigate Nate's father Hank and discovered he forged the footage of Kona Ne's escape. Their plan? Steal Hank's phone at a gala to prove the conspiracy. The situation heats up when Sarah and Ava clash. Sarah tries to explain the setup, but Ava, focused on protecting history, doesn't believe her and sends her agents to capture Kona Ne in the middle of a crucial match. Mona, with a little help from one of Mick's romance novels, convinces Kona Ne to throw the fight for El Cura and restore the timeline. The match turns into a free-for-all between the legends, the luchadores, and the Bureau agents. They win, but an enraged Ava calls Sarah and ends their relationship. For her, human history is more important than the lives of magical creatures. The episode heads toward a tragic end. Mick, showing his sensitive side, gives Mona a temporal courier to help Kona Ne escape. She opens a portal to ancient Hawaii, but decides to stay. As the two are about to kiss, a Bureau agent appears and shoots, killing Kona Ne. Mona, overcome with grief and rage, transforms into a creature just like him and tears the agent to shreds. It seems the happily ever after from Mick's book doesn't exist in the real world. And amidst the chaos, we see footage of President Nixon being physically incapable of lying, which, as you can imagine, sparks historic turmoil. At the Bureau, Nate and Zari pretend to be loyal agents, and even a couple, just to deceive Nate's father. Their mission? To arrest their own friends. Obviously, they're acting as double agents and ask Gary for help hacking Hank's phone. The legends capture Nixon to figure out what's going on and escape in a van. Since Zari sabotaged the Wave Rider to throw the Bureau off their trail, the culprit for Nixon's honesty is a magical cockroach, an agent of the Egyptian goddess of truth. The roach feeds on lies, and Mixon was a feast. The chaos begins when the roach escapes and enters Ray, who tells a police officer the whole truth. From there, the insect jumps from legend to legend, forcing everyone to confess their secrets. The mood darkens when Sarah, possessed by the roach, says she blames Mona for losing Ava and the Wave Rider. Hurt? Mona runs away. Meanwhile, Hank and Nate have a father-son moment until Hank figures out the betrayal and sets an ambush, capturing the legends. The roach then possesses Nate, who confesses everything to his father, that he was helping his friends, but that he loves him and just wanted him to be honest. Touched, Hank lets everyone go, but the peace is short-lived. Neron, the season's demon, kills Hank when he tries to cancel their deal. Nate arrives on the scene to find Nora Dark next to his father's body, assuming she's the killer. What an episode ending! The mood is somber. The legends are at a funeral to support Nate, who is devastated and can't even deliver a eulogy for his father, knowing about the shady deals he was involved in. In the midst of the grief, Ray discovers Nora hiding in a mirror, swearing her innocence. He, of course, believes her. Meanwhile, a new mission arises. In 1802, Jane Austen's England, a widespread outbreak of lust is occurring. The culprit is Kamadeva, the Hindu god of love, who is making everyone declare their deepest desires. Zari, who went on ahead, ends up falling for the guy. Back at the funeral, Constantine senses Hank's spirit in the house. On the Wave Rider, Ray hides Nora, and Kamadeva, even while imprisoned, blows a magical powder that causes erotic dreams for the entire team. Zari and Mona have a huge fight, and Mona transforms into a Cole Pay in front of Jane Austen, who reveals herself to be an incurable romantic. The conflict escalates when Zari discovers Kamadeva's power comes from ashes in a vial. Instead of stopping him, she ingests the ashes with him, and the episode turns into a Bollywood musical, with everyone singing and dancing. The party only ends when Mona shows up and reveals that the so-called God of Love already has 1,000 wives. Zari snaps back to reality instantly. In the end, Constantine uses Mick to channel Hank's spirit, who confesses to making a pact with a demon named Neron. Nate uncovers his father's big secret. The embezzled money was to build Hayworld, a theme park with magical creatures, a childhood dream of Nate's. He realizes he misjudged his father. The episode closes with Constantine seeing Neron in a mirror, mocking him.
Dad, I'm surprised you haven't figured it out yet.
Sarah arrives at Ava's apartment to find the place completely trashed, signs of a struggle. She asks Constantine and Nora for help, and they discover that Neron has kidnapped Ava and sent her soul to Purgatory to use her as a vessel. Without a second thought, Sarah asks Constantine to send her there too. Ava's Purgatory is basically a giant IKEA, a nightmare of relationship anxiety. Each section of the store is a metaphor. Assembling a wardrobe tests Sarah's stubbornness, choosing a mattress is about their fear of growing old together, and doing the dishes represents represents the tediousness of routine. Meanwhile, in the real world, Nate discovers that Hayworld was built from his childhood drawings. Constantine and Nora manage to capture Neron, but the demon starts manipulating everyone. He plays on Nate's anger over his father's death and tries to seduce Nora with promises of power. In Purgatory, Sarah and Ava finally work things out. Sarah realizes she doesn't want a perfect Ava and finds her in the defective products section, admitting she loves her just the way she is. The two wake up on the Wave Rider safe and sound. The calm doesn't last. Nora pretends to betray Constantine to trick Neron, but just as she's about to exorcise the demon, Ray enters the room and distracts everyone. Neron seizes the opportunity, flees Desmond's body, and possesses Ray. No one notices. Zari finally texts Nate to ask him out, but he had just broken his phone. The final scene is chilling. Ray, all alone, starts whistling Neron's sinister tune, revealing that he is the new host. We open in 1933, in the Arctic, where an explorer finds a giant golden egg frozen in ice. Cut to the present, and the legends are chilling, hunting magical fugitives now that Neron has vanished. Zari and Nate are in the middle of a super awkward flirtation, and Sarah, who never misses a thing, encourages Zari to take a chance. Meanwhile, Ray is going through a bizarre ordeal. His hand is possessed and tries to strangle Nora. We soon learn it's Neron controlling Ray with a diabolical plan. If Ray kills someone he loves, his soul will be sent to hell. To make matters worse, Ray tries to ask for help but ends up stabbing himself to avoid hurting Gary. Seeing this, Gary, who was already feeling like an outcast, falls for Neron's manipulations, as the demon promises to make him feel whole again. In another storyline, Mick and Charlie are scheming for her to pose as the author Rebecca Silver at a convention. Amidst all this, Sarah sets up a mission for Nate and Zari in 1933, which is basically a setup for a date. They think it's all fake, until actual Nazis show up to crash the party. The climax is a total mess. At the convention, Mick reveals that he is Rebecca Silver, to everyone's surprise. Constantine finally wakes Nora up and discovers Ray is possessed, and the worst happens. To save Nate, Ray gives himself over to Neron completely. Gary, in his final act of betrayal, helps the demon knock out Constantine and escape. In the end, the legends discover the truth. Nate and Zari finally kiss, and that golden egg? It's a dragon egg about to hatch. Neron, using Ray's body as his personal Uber, taking Constantine for a joyride to the Ice Age. His plan? To force Constantine to open a portal to hell. Meanwhile, at the Time Bureau, Gary has taken over and is acting super weird, while Ava and the other agents are repeating a bizarre mantra. Gary Green is the man. The legends track down Constantine and go after him, but an impatient Mick fires a shot at Neron. The demon uses a time stone to escape, triggering an avalanche that buries the Wave Rider in snow. The ship is turned into a giant popsicle, and the team is left trapped, powerless, and fighting amongst themselves. Neron takes Constantine to meet his ancestor, a Celtic king who knows how to open two-way portals to hell by harnessing people's fear. On the Wave Rider, the mood is grim, but Nate and Zari find a way to warm up by taking care of the dragon egg, which they nickname Wixty. After a lot of arguing, Sarah and Mick make amends and, inspired by one of Ray's contingency plans, manage to use the ship's energy to melt the ice and escape. In the climax, Constantine, on the verge of being sent to hell, has a moment of vulnerability and manages to break free. When the legends arrive, they beg him not to kill Ray's body. So, Constantine makes the most radical decision of all. He jumps into the portal to hell himself to rescue Ray's soul. Neron seizes the opportunity, closes the portal, and brings his girlfriend from hell, the fairy godmother, to Earth. The two flee, leaving the legends completely devastated. With the Bureau compromised, Constantine in hell, and Ray still lost. Neron, still in Ray's body, becomes a sort of evil Steve Jobs and launches a commercial warning the world about magical creatures. He also releases an app, Eyes, for people to report these creatures. The legends' plan to invade the Time Bureau goes down the drain when Gary, with the fairy godmother's help, traps Sarah, Ava, and Nora in a bizarre book club. The rest of the team decides to infiltrate Neron's tech convention, Palmer X. There, Neron exposes Mona, forcing her to transform into a werewolf in front of everyone to stir up panic. Zari and Charlie uncover the app's secret. Anyone who accepts the terms of use sells their soul to Neron. Meanwhile, in hell, Constantine faces an impossible choice: save Ray's soul or that of Astra, the girl he damned years ago. He chooses Astra. Back on Earth, The situation on the Wave Rider is chaotic. Gary uses the fairy godmother's magic to torment the Legends, turning Mick into a baby and forcing Sarah and Ava to dance uncontrollably. In the end, everything happens at once. The Legends manage to convince Gary to stop. Nora, to save Mona, agrees to become the new fairy godmother, falling into Tabitha's trap. Charlie manages to free all the magical creatures from the Bureau, but gets captured in the process. In Hell, Constantine's deal fails because Astra, now an adult and powerful, refuses to leave. Constantine is left behind to be tortured. The Legends are back with a ship full of creatures, but without Charlie and with Constantine trapped.
Back off, freak!
It's like a demented Noah's Ark.
To top it all off, the dragon egg they left at Zari's childhood home begins to hatch in front of her younger self. The Legends are trying to get used to the magical creatures aboard the Wave Rider, which has turned into a bizarre Noah's Ark. Nate tries to comfort Zari, who's down in the dumps for leaving the dragon egg behind. Meanwhile, Nora goes to Hell to rescue Ray and Constantine. There, she finds the magician being tortured by a demon and saves the day. The problem is, Ray's soul is locked away in Hell's vaults, and they'll need help to break in. On Earth, Tabitha, the evil fairy godmother, transforms Charlie into a senator to help with Neron's plan. Posing as Ray Palmer, he gives a speech to the Senate, but when Senator Charlie disagrees, Tabitha turns her into a squid monster in front of everyone. Panic ensues, and Neron uses the opportunity to scare the public, claiming that magical creatures are everywhere. In the past, young Zari teaches the baby dragon how to dance, but her teacher reports the creature using the app, and the Time Bureau takes it away. The Legends discover that Neron's plan is no longer about collecting souls, but fear, which is a source of magical energy. With the public's fear, he opens a portal to Hell. Then Nate has the idea of the century. Use his father's theme park, Hayworld, to show that the creatures are friendly. The problem is, it would take years to build, but Zari remembers Bridget's journal, which could build the park instantly. However, this would change the timeline. Her dystopian future would vanish, her family would survive, but the Zari we know would cease to exist. To avoid being erased, she stays in the ship's temporal zone. At Hayworld, the show is a disaster and the audience boos. Tabitha appears with a giant dragon and chaos erupts. But young Zari from the past shows up and makes the dragon dance. The creature calms down and eats Tabitha. Neron doesn't give up and kills Constantine, except it was Nate in disguise. With the deal broken, the real Constantine sends Neron packing. Nate dies, but the Legends, singing Sweet Baby James, use the power of love to resurrect him. But Zari, now outside the temporal zone, is replaced by her brother Barad, and Nate forgets all about her. In Hell, Astra cashes in the souls of history's greatest villains, saying, "Everyone deserves a second act." After saving the world with a dancing dragon on national television, the Legends have become celebrities. So famous, in fact, that a documentary crew is aboard the Wave Rider filming everything, basically to keep the government from confiscating the ship. Ava forgot to tell Sarah, who returns from the crisis, and is not thrilled to have cameras in her face. During an interview with Ray, a timequake damages Gideon and throws the ship into 1917 Russia. The problem? Grigory Rasputin, the hard-to-kill mystic, has simply risen from his coffin. He's an Encore, a villainous soul Astra released from Hell. Meanwhile, Constantine discovers that several other historical villains are also back. The Legends try to stop Rasputin, but the guy is like a royal Terminator. He survives a sniper shot and even hypnotizes Nate. The team learns they can't kill him for good because part of his soul is still in Hell. Rasputin then decides to throw a party to kill the royal family and become the new immortal emperor. The Legends crash the party to prevent the disaster. Rasputin, using a magical amulet, hypnotizes half the team, including a transformed Mona, and pits everyone against each other. It's total chaos. Realizing brute force won't work, Sarah comes up with a classic Legends plan. She throws a shrunken Ray, in atom mode, into Rasputin's mouth. Ray returns to normal size inside, and, well, Rasputin explodes from the inside out. To wrap up, they air the documentary, but tell everyone it's all fake to protect the secret of time travel. Constantine shows up to warn them about the other Encores on the loose, and for the final hook, Nate finds a corrupted holographic message from Zari, asking him to find her, but he no longer remembers who she is. In Hell, Constantine confronts Astra. He wants her to call back the soul she's unleashed on Earth, because the world is chaotic enough as it is. But Astra couldn't care less. For her, any soul corrupted or killed by her Encores is a point in her favor. To make matters worse, she reveals she's torturing Masher, the demon who ratted out her plans to Constantine. Astra says she doesn't see Constantine as an enemy, but as a stepping stone in her rise to power. She's moved up in the world and won't give it up. The only way out would be to kill her, which would be pointless since she just returned to hell. Back on the Wave Rider, Nate can't stop thinking about the mysterious girl. He asks Gideon to show him the message again, but the system says there's nothing there. Barad shows up, and for a second, Nate swears he sees the girl in his place. Barad thinks he's been smoking something he shouldn't. In the team meeting, Constantine explains the beef with Astra, and Sarah is actually relieved that for once, it's not the Legend's fault. The temporary solution? Capture the Encores and store them in the ship's pantry. Meanwhile, Barad takes a break to go to his dad's birthday party and brings Nate along, who's posing as his professor, but the ship detects a timequake in 1947 Los Angeles.
What are we looking at? The epicenter of the timequake is in Los Angeles, 1947.
It's the golden age of Hollywood and the height of organized crime in the city.
Sarah, Ray, and Constantine head out on the mission, leaving Ava and Mick to babysit the ship. At the Tarazi dinner, Nate finally meets Barad's sister, Zari. And yes, she's the girl from the video, except now she's a famous influencer who thinks Nate is just another weird fan. In 1947, the team finds a detective's office with the ashes of a man burned by hellfire. A mysterious woman named Jeannie Hill shows up looking for the deceased. She tells them her boyfriend, mob boss Bugsy Siegel, has come back from the dead and is more dangerous than ever. At his club, the legends see Bugsy being protected by politicians he's blackmailing. Sarah, in full femme fatale mode, seduces the gangster into a trap, but the plan goes wrong. Some thugs try to machine gun Bugsy, who doesn't even flinch and turns the men to dust with a hell-forged revolver. To make things worse, Constantine discovers that Jeannie is in cahoots with Bugsy. He makes a deal with her, Bugsy's collection of blackmail material in exchange for the Hellgun. The Legend's new plan is to create a distraction, and Ava gets on stage to sing Poison, so horribly that the entire club empties out. The trap works, and they capture Siegel, but betrayal is in the air. Jeannie double-crosses Constantine, but is killed in a car explosion. Using Siegel's blood, Constantine travels with him to hell, kills a few demons, and executes the gangster in front of Astra, just to show he's not messing around. Back on the ship, Zari, who had become suspicious of Barad, discovers the Wave Rider and lets out a panicked scream. Welcome to the team, kid! In 2004, Freddie Myers, the prom night slasher, is executed in the electric chair, but when the coroner is transporting the body, the van crashes and the corpse vanishes. Moments later, the coroner is stabbed by a mysterious figure. On the Wave Rider, Ray's suggestion is both brilliant and idiotic. Instead of fighting the Encores, why not go back in time and reform them as kids? Nora, who is sick of being a fairy godmother and only getting requests for ponies, thinks it's a terrible idea. The new Encore is none other than Freddie Myers. And lucky for them, Ava is a true crime podcast nerd and knows everything about the case. The team heads to a 15-year high school reunion in 2004, but the slasher strikes again, killing the original sole survivor. Meanwhile, Constantine and Gary go to one of his old houses, where Charlie, surprise surprise, is already squatting. From there, Ray and Nate travel to 1989 to try to stop young Freddy from becoming a monster. They try to convince him not to go to the prom, but only end up scaring the kid. Plan B kicks in when Nora is magically summoned to be Freddy's fairy godmother. Instead of wishing his classmates dead, he asks for a suit and a limo. The plan seems to be working, but back in 2004, the slasher kills Ali, one of Mick's old flames, sending him into a rage. Back in 1989, the prom night prank still happens, and Freddy is humiliated in front of everyone. Nora gives him a pep talk, and Freddy, instead of seeking revenge, wishes to show everyone who he really is, resulting in a magical dance number that impresses the whole school. Zari, who had fled the ship, ends up in Freddy's limo and comes face to face with the slasher, the big slasher movie-style reveal. In 2004, the slasher kills Mick, and the mask comes off, revealing Freddy's mother. In 1989, Zari also unmasks the psycho mom. Freddy, inspired by Nora, rejects his mother, and Barad arrives to save the day with the air totem. With the timeline fixed, Ali is alive, and Mick finally gets his chance. In 2020, Constantine reveals his true plan. He's at the house to summon the spirit of Natalie, Astra's deceased mother. At Constantine's house, Gary, in his usual bumbling way, tries to help and ends up releasing the spirit of Natalie, Astra's mother. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Sarah promotes Ava to interim captain, and the poor woman immediately panics under the weight of responsibility. In hell, Astra is furious about the Legend's victories and decides to use Constantine's soul token to finish him off for good. Back at the haunted house, Natalie's spirit is wreaking havoc. Constantine is forced to confess the truth. He was in love with Natalie and resurrected her out of pure ego, which cost them their daughter Astra's soul. Ava, trying to be a good leader, creates a protocol called Aloha, which of course no one takes seriously. The mission this time is in Versailles, 1793, where the encore is none other than Marie Antoinette. But instead of executions, there's a never-ending party that's literally killing people from over-partying. Zari, skill and influencer mode, and Ava are the only ones immune to the magic of the Queen's cake and perfume. Natalie, possessing Charlie's body, forces Constantine to face his past. He needed to admit that everything was his ego's fault, not love's. Only then could he save Astra. Natalie then reveals the solution. The loom of fate is real. In Versailles, Zari and Ava devise a plan to capture Marie Antoinette, but the Queen ends up being accidentally beheaded. Back on the ship, Zari finds out her new perfume is going to be a flop and, in a brilliant move, steals Marie Antoinette's magical perfume, which is her hell weapon. At the launch event, she sprays it on herself, and the crowd becomes insanely obsessed with her. The situation spirals out of control, with Marie Antoinette's headless body running around the Wave Rider with Mick's heat gun. The legends manage to save Zari by throwing her into a fountain. In the end, Zari has a moment of clarity, realizes she doesn't know who she is anymore, and makes peace with Ava. But the peace is short-lived. In Hell, Astra makes a deal to accelerate Constantine's death. He starts coughing up blood and collapses on the floor. Gideon's diagnosis is grim, aggressive, terminal lung cancer. Unfazed, he tries to light a cigarette and quips, "Well, no reason to stop now." Ava, naturally, is not amused and slaps the cigarette out of his hand. Meanwhile, Charlie starts hearing voices calling her Clotho and tries to bail, but she's dragged into a meeting. On the bridge, Ava unveils her new high-tech system for predicting encores, which she calls the Prognosticator. The team's reaction is an awkward silence. Nate's electric scooter, nicknamed Scoots Magoots, on the other hand, gets a round of applause. Poor Ava. The mission is in Hong Kong, 1997, where a mysterious gangster is causing trouble, and said gangster is none other than Genghis Khan, riding a motorcycle. Nate tries to justify it, saying a motorcycle is the modern-day horse. Khan steals the Triad's drugs and demands total control. A shootout erupts, and Charlie is taken hostage but manages to escape when everyone's guns run out of bullets. Back at his house, Constantine, convinced this is magic, performs a ritual and ends up in his personal purgatory. There, he discovers Astra is the one behind it all. She accelerated the cancer he already had because he was interfering with Hell's business. He tries to negotiate, saying he can save her mother, but Astra isn't interested. In the end, Khan's master plan is to use an army of weaponized scooters to kidnap Prince Charles. In the final showdown, Parad uses the air totem to stop the bullets, and Charlie kills Khan with his own sword. As the dust settles, Charlie reveals her secret. She is one of the Fates, Clotho, and her sisters are coming for her. To top it all off, Constantine takes poison to force Astra's hand. The emotional blackmail works. She reverses the spell, and he comes back to life, now with a new goal: find the Loom of Fate. Constantine is determined to use the Loom of Fate to save Astra, but Charlie, knowing the danger, refuses to help. Meanwhile, Ray is planning the perfect proposal for Nora. The mission is in Salvation, 1874, but things get complicated when the doorbell at Constantine's house rings and, surprise! It's Damien Dark, alive and kicking, back as an encore. To avoid a catastrophe, Nora improvises one lie after another. She claims Sarah and Ava are her henchwomen, and that Constantine is her boyfriend. Dark, proud of his daughter's new life, even hugs Constantine. Meanwhile, Mick and Zari go after an internet troll who's been busting Rebecca Silver's chops. The twist? The troll is actually a teenager named Lita, who is Mick's daughter with an X. Mick's reaction is to faint and then erase both of their memories with a MIB-style neuralizer. Back at the house, Nora's charade falls apart when her goddaughter Pippa gets fed up with the drama and transports everyone into a bizarre children's TV show called Mr. Parker's Cul-de-sac. It's basically group therapy on a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood set. In the midst of the madness, Sarah and Ava work things out. Constantine convinces Charlie to help, and even Dark and Nora make peace. With everything resolved, Ray and Nora get married right there, but the happiness is short-lived. Dark, in a father-in-law moment, tells Ray that he and Nora need to leave the Wave Rider to have a normal life. In the end, Dark says goodbye to Sarah, admits he can't forgive himself for what he's done, and uses the Hell Sword to disintegrate himself, escaping an eternity of torture. A tragic end for the villain. Ray and Nora have decided to leave the team, but Ray has a serious problem. He can't bring himself to tell his best friend Nate. It's the classic difficulty difficulty of saying goodbye. The mission is in 1594 London to retrieve a piece of the Loom of Fate from none other than William Shakespeare. The poet, however, has already sold the ring containing the piece. While Charlie simply steals the ring back, Nate, completely in the dark, insists on throwing Ray a bachelor party, thinking he's just leaving for his honeymoon. The party turns into a mess. The team gets drunk, starts a bar fight, and, of course, breaks the timeline. Romeo and Juliet becomes a superhero play called Romeo 5 Juliet, Dawn of Justness, a clear jab at Batman v Superman. In the middle of the chaos, Ray, trying to advise Shakespeare to let his characters go, accidentally reveals his own plans, and Nate overhears everything. The vibe gets instantly awkward. Sarah's solution is brilliant. The legends themselves will perform the original play to fix history. During the play, Zari convinces Nate to go say a proper goodbye to Ray. He rushes to the Wave Rider, and the two finally share a super emotional bromance hug. Impossible not to get emotional. After the farewell, the legends store the piece of the loom on the ship. Mona shows up and convinces Mick not to give up on his daughter. The night ends with the team in the kitchen, missing Ray and drinking his gross green juice in his honor. Zari is the only one who likes it. The rest run to the bathroom, a bittersweet ending, and very on brand for the legends. We jump to 3 nights after Charlie joined the legends, and we see that her past is already coming back to haunt her. A mysterious woman storms the venue where Charlie's old band used to play and starts a math. She kills 2 of her former bandmates and asks the last survivor where Clotho is. The guy has no idea who she's talking about until the woman reveals that Clotho was the lead singer, meaning Charlie herself. The assassin reveals herself to be Atropos, Charlie's sister, and says you can't run from your fate. With that, she shows her true form and erases the musician from existence. Meanwhile, Zari wakes up in Nate's bed, fully clothed. She panics, but Gideon explains that she sleepwalked there and even put the AI on snooze. The team, of course, starts teasing them, thinking something happened. Constantine and Charlie find out about the band, and Charlie reveals the killer isn't an Encore, but her sister. Constantine immediately realizes the hunt for the Loom of Fate is on, but Sarah, still grieving Ray's departure, asks them to hold off. Constantine pretends to agree but takes the jump ship and bails to find the loom pieces himself. In Hell, Atropos finds her other sister Lachesis, who happens to be Astra's mentor. Lachesis gives her the intel. Use Constantine's soul token to find him and Charlie. On the Wave Rider, it's chaos. Nick is pissed because being a dad sucks, and the team realizes Constantine is gone. Sarah and Charlie go after him and end up on the film set of Supernatural, Sarah's favorite show. There, Charlie explains that she, as Clotho, wove the threads of life. Lachesis measured their length, and Atropos cut them. Elsewhere on the ship, Zari starts having strange glitches. She beats Barad at a video game she's never played, and even uses the air totem by accident. Sarah finally finds Constantine, and in the middle of their argument, their ship explodes. It's Atropos. Without communications, they follow Charlie, who can sense where the loom piece is. But Charlie surrenders to her sister to spare her friends. When Sarah and Constantine try to fight, Atropos kills Sarah, and then reveals that Constantine was actually her in disguise. But the real showdown happens on the Wave Rider. Atropos boards the ship looking for the loom pieces, and when Barad tries to protect Zari, the villain simply cuts his thread of life right in front of everyone. In the ensuing fight, Sarah, who survived, manages to eject Atropos from the ship, but Charlie's sister ripped off her own hand to leave the loom pieces behind. Zari wakes up to find her brother dead. Heartbroken, she goes to Constantine and demands they are going to use the loom to bring Barad back, no matter the cost. Charlie drops the bombshell. She hid the last piece of the Loom of Fate in ancient Egypt with her friend Enchantress. The problem? Enchantress cast a spell that prevents anyone looking for the ring from finding it. Nate is furious, because this information could have saved Barad's life. Zari, focused on resurrection, doesn't even think about grieving and pressures Constantine to find a way. During a spell to locate the ring, Sarah, still messed up from her encounter with Atropos, faints. The magic fails, and throws Constantine and Zari through a portal. They land in Constantine's house, but in the past, when it was a boarding house. To get a room, they pretend to be engaged. It's there they meet a creepy doctor who reveals himself to be none other than Jack the Ripper, an Encore sent from Hell. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Ava decides to go to Hell to confront Astra, thinking she's behind everything. At the boarding house, the situation turns into a battle royale of historical villains when other Encores like Bonnie and Clyde and Brutus show up looking for the ring. Zari, in a moment of genius, poses as Cleopatra and proposes a truce. In Hell, Ava confronts Astra, who swears she has nothing to do with it, they discover that Lachesis, Astra's mentor, stole her soul tokens and deceived her. Astra then sets a trap and captures Ava, Mick, and Gary. In the past, Constantine and Zari realize the only way to find the ring is to stop looking for it. In Hell, Lachesis and Atropos offer Astra the chance to become the third Fate sister. Astra pretends to accept, but demands Constantine's soul token back. With the token in hand, she betrays the Fates and frees Ava's team, deciding to return to Earth with them to save her mother. Back at the boarding house, the Encores corner Constantine. Zari, now in badass Cleopatra mode, returns and finally manages to use the air totem, helping to defeat the villains. The moment they forget about the loom and almost kiss, the ring appears. The mission was a success. They have all the pieces and a dubious new ally, Astra. Nick brings his daughter, Lita, to see the Wave Rider in a clumsy attempt to connect with her. Meanwhile, the Legends prepare to use the Loom of Fate, the priority, bringing Barad back. But Charlie fails. The magic goes wrong, and a wave of energy shuts down the entire ship, leaving everyone stranded in time. To make matters worse, Sarah wakes up from her coma, but she's completely blind. And that's not all. She now has the power to foresee people's deaths just by touching them. She sees Ava, Mick, and Constantine dying and, terrified, thinks she's the killer. While Sarah asks to be locked up for safety, chaos ensues. The food runs out, the systems are sabotaged, and security footage shows Charlie, Zari, and Nate as the culprits, though they have no memory of it. The first suspect, of course, is Astra, who is locked in the brig. The real culprit, however, is Gary's new pet, a cute little dog he adopted in Hell named Gary Jr. Sarah discovers the truth when she touches the dog and has a vision. The puppy is actually Marcosius, the son of Sam's demonic dog, who is manipulating everyone into killing each other. The demon reveals its hellhound form, and the terror begins.
Get to the dais. Don't let me out now.
The team locks themselves in the brig with Astra, who, as revenge for being accused, shrinks the force field, squeezing them all together. The Hound attacks Lita, and Mick tries to save her. Sarah, though blind, uses her enhanced hearing and assassin training Daredevil style to guide Constantine. With help from Astra, who reveals the demon's name, Constantine manages to banish it back to Hell. In the end, the ship powers back on, but Sarah remains blind with her dark, new gift. Mick and Lita finally reconcile, and she calls him Dad for the first time. Gary, to replace the demon dog, adopts a rabbit that a circus performer gave him, with the one rule being never feed it after midnight. Yes, the Gremlins reference is obvious. The immediate threat is over, but the real problems remain. The loom doesn't work, Sarah is a blind seer, and Barad is still dead. On the Wave Rider, the team is trying to figure out how to use the Loom of Fate without blowing up the universe. Charlie explains they need 3 people with the power of gods, and Astra immediately volunteers, not trusting anyone else to resurrect her mother. Sarah, now blind but able to see the future, offers to be the third, figuring her life is already crazy enough. Constantine has the solution, the Chalice of Dionysus, which can turn you into a god for a day. And where is this divine artifact? At a college fraternity, being used as a trophy for a drinking competition. Seriously, arriving at Hudson University, which looks like something out of a cheesy college movie, Ava takes command since Sarah has her new superpower. The mission is simple: infiltrate the Sigma Psi Phi frat party and get the Chug Cup. The only problem is that the fraternity's leader is Dionysus himself, the god of wine, who also happens to be an old friend of Charlie's. He recognizes his former party buddy, and to complicate things, Astra tries to snatch the chalice and fails. Now, to get the item, the Legends have to join a sorority and win the drinking challenge. They end up founding their own sorority, Delta Chi Sigma, in a smelly basement and recruit a few other rejected girls. Meanwhile, Nate gets invited to Dionysus's party and falls under the god's spell, entering a state of eternal bliss and spilling the Legends' entire plan. Dionysus, afraid the loom will destroy free will and all parties, disqualifies their sorority. Astra gets pissed and decides to handle things her own way, but Charlie convinces her that teamwork is the key. The new plan is to sabotage Dionysus's party to steal his followers and, consequently, his power. After a lot of yodeling and spiked beer, the plan works, but Dionysus still has his inner circle of loyal friends. The solution? A game of beer pong. With Sarah's premonitions, she humiliates the god, who loses all his powers. With the chalice in hand, the legends have an even better idea. Instead of just 3 of them, they all drink from it and become gods. But in the end, Astra disappears and reappears on the Wave Rider with Charlie's evil sisters. Betrayal is in the air. With the whole gang turned into gods for 24 hours, it's party time. But the joy is short-lived. Astra is missing, the Wave Rider has taken off without them, and Gideon isn't answering. Long story short, Astra betrayed everyone and handed the ship over to the Fates, Charlie's sisters. Now, Earth's most powerful heroes are stranded in England with no ship and no cash for the bus. Impatient, Mick simply throws the driver out and takes the wheel, kicking off the most bizarre road trip ever. Up in the sky, Atropos, one of the Fates, uses a piece of the loom to unleash a zombie plague on the United Kingdom. Soon, the Legends trip is interrupted by a zombie woman Mick runs over. And the worst part, she gets back up, and an entire horde appears. All hell breaks loose, and Constantine notices something hilarious. Since his soul is already condemned to hell, the zombies simply ignore him. He just chills, leaning against the bus, while the rest of the team fights for their lives. After the fight, the bus breaks down, and they're found by soldiers who, seeing the blood, think they are super-talking zombies, and capture them. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Gary hallucinates that Gideon has become human and helps him steal the rings of the loom. The Legends manage to escape the army truck, but Zari and Constantine split off to get help. They end up cornered by zombies, and Constantine has to use a spell to stop Zari's heart, making her appear dead so they can escape. They reunite with the team in a hideout, but the only available teleporter has a dead battery. With their immortality running out and the zombie apocalypse knocking at their door, the mood gets heavy. Sarah reveals she's foreseen her own death. She will sacrifice herself so the rest of the team can escape, and that's exactly what happens. When the zombies break in, Sarah fights bravely until she's overwhelmed, giving Charlie enough time to open a portal and escape to the Wave Rider. There, she finds Gary, takes the rings of the loom, and confronts her sisters, telling them she's done running. Welcome to Loom World, a dystopian reality where the Fates control everything, free will has been abolished, and everyone eats gray mush while watching TV. In this world, the Legends are stars of TV shows designed to control the population. Barad, Nate, and Zari Tarazi are in a sitcom called Ultimate Buds. Sarah and Ava are co-captains on Star Trip, a Star Trek parody, and Constantine and Astra are in a Downton Abbey-style period drama. The only ones who realize something is wrong are Mona and Gary, who is now a homeless man shouting conspiracy theories. Things start to unravel when the original Zari, the hacker, manages to possess her influencer version's body and realizes she's trapped in a simulation.
Has that been there the whole time?
She convinces Nate and Barad to follow her, and they start jumping from show to show, breaking the fourth wall wherever they go. First, they land in Constantine's period drama, then end up on the Star Trip ship and find Sarah and Ava. Mona and Gary, acting as detectives, break into the production studios and discover the Legends are literally hooked up to machines. Inspired, Mona uses the system to restore everyone's memories. When the Legends finally remember who they are, a horrified Charlie appears. She reveals it was her idea to trap them on TV. It was the only way to save them from her sisters, who wanted to kill them. She gave each of them the life they always wanted. Zari got her brother back. Sarah and Ava were together and safe. But the Legends realize that a perfect, risk-free life isn't a real life. To escape, they need to break the rules of each show. In the sitcom, they start having controversial opinions. On Star Trip, Sarah refuses to win a space battle and lets the ship be destroyed on purpose. One by one, the shows are cancelled, and the Legends reunite in the real world. Charlie begs them to return, but the team refuses to be used as a tool of control. Together, they turn their backs on the Fates' perfect world, ready to face the consequences. After the Legends manage to escape, Charlie returns to the Temple of Fate to find her sisters, the Fates. The team splits in two. Mick, Ava, Zari Tomaz, and Nate go look for the Wave Rider, while Sarah, Zari Tarazi, Constantine, Barad, and Astra set out to destroy the Loom of Fate. Zari Tomaz warns them not to break the loom until they find the ship, or it's game over. At the temple, Lachesis, the head of the Fates, figures out the Legends are free and sends Atropos to hunt them down. Charlie tries to defend her friends, but Lachesis throws all the blame on her, saying the chaos in the world is because of the free will she gave humanity. Charlie is left speechless. To destroy the loom, Sarah's team needs some heavy-duty magic. Astra tries to channel her mother's energy, but her memory has been corrupted by Lachesis, and the spell fails. Meanwhile, the other team finds the Wave Rider in a junkyard, and to get the ship flying without Gideon, they use Nate's steel form as a superconductor, a brilliant and very painful idea. Atropos attacks Sarah, who now has the power to see the future, a gift from Atropos herself. With help from both Zaris, Sarah throws the Fate into the loom and uses her lifeline to blow the whole thing up. Goodbye, Atropos. Goodbye, loom. Or so they thought. They jump a few months into the future and discover the world is still controlled by the Fates, only now through a Fate Watch, a kind of dystopian Apple Watch. The old temple has become a propaganda museum where Charlie is public enemy number 1. Speaking of whom, she shows up completely out of it, addicted to the watch and blaming herself for everything. Ava realizes Lachesis has brainwashed her. The big twist is that the loom was indeed destroyed. What's controlling everything is Gideon running a Fate protocol. To win, they just have to shut down the network. In the final showdown, Astra poses as Charlie and exposes Lachesis' sham. The Zari shut down Gideon, and Lachesis, in a panic, brings the wax statues of villains to life. The brawl breaks out to the sound of Thong Song, until Charlie, convinced by Lita, arrives with weapons from hell and crashes the party. In the end, she forgives her sister, now mortal. Victory comes at a price. To save Barad, who is dying from a temporal mess, Zari Tomaz must return to the totem. After a heart-wrenching farewell, the team goes to celebrate at Charlie's band's show, who decides to leave the Legends. And as everyone is leaving, a bright light abducts Sarah into an alien ship without anyone noticing. The victory party hangover hits hard in London, 1977. The Wave Rider is a mess, and Ava wakes up with her face in the toilet to discover the worst. Sarah is gone. A desperate search for the other Legends begins, who are scattered across the city. Constantine and Zari Tarazi had a hot night, Astra is cleaning out some guys at poker, and Nate is venting to none other than David Bowie. It's Bowie himself who provides the crucial clue. He filmed Sarah being beamed up into an alien ship right after she confessed she was going to propose to Ava. As Ava processes the shock, Sarah wakes up in a cryo chamber aboard said ship. She manages to escape and comes face to face with Spartacus. The showboating gladiator ignores Sarah's warnings and releases a super dangerous alien from another pod. Sarah has to handle trapping the creature herself, and then lecture Spartacus, whose plan was to avenge her death after the alien killed her. Genius.
Being an Avenger is stupid.
On Earth, the search leads to a woman named Spooner, who was abducted as a child and can now hear aliens. Back on the ship, Spartacus tries to attack the alien pilots alone and is simply devoured. And one of the pilots reveals himself. It's Gary. He explains his mission was to kidnap the quintessential human, that is, Sarah. He tried to sabotage everything because he fell in love with Earth, but his boss and fiancée, Kayla, caught him red-handed. Meanwhile, Mick and Barad get knocked out by Spooner when they trespass on her property. The team on the Wave Rider discovers Gary is an alien, and Spooner, thinking the ship is an enemy, shoots at it. Ava goes down and makes a deal. Help us find Sarah, and we'll remove the implant from your head. With Spooner's help, Ava manages to project her consciousness to the ship and accepts Sarah's marriage proposal. Motivated, Sarah uses the engagement ring to escape, fights Kayla, and throws her into a wormhole. The problem is, in the chaos, she releases all the other alien pods across the timeline. To make matters worse, the wormhole closes before their ship can pass through, and without fuel, they crash land on an unknown planet. An alien pod crashes in 1955 California, right in the town that started the Big Bang Burger fast food chain. The Legends travel there, hoping to find a clue to Sarah's whereabouts. Spooner is fed up and just wants to go home, but Ava forces her to help with the mission, making the mood between them super pleasant. Meanwhile, on a random planet, Sarah and Gary are led by a golden to find, Amelia Earhart, the famous missing aviator. Back in the 50s, the team uncovers a disgusting secret. The special sauce that makes Big Bang Burger so successful is actually alien goo. People are addicted to it, and when the Legends try to stop serving the burgers, the hungry customers start a riot. Zari Tarazi has to use her new herbal supplement, Dragon Ash, to drug the crowd and calm the situation. The source of the sauce is a cocoon in the attic of the restaurant owner's house. Suddenly, the cocoon hatches, and a giant hungry alien moth emerges, devouring the woman on the spot. The monster flies to the diner to feast on the customers it fattened up with its sauce. It's the the legends were trying to prevent. Ava finally gives in and allows Spooner to kill the creature. After the fight, Ava apologizes to Spooner for her behavior, and Spooner finally agrees to join the team. The diner, it gets rebranded as the iconic Big Belly Burger. Far away, Sarah and Gary's dinner with Amelia Earhart goes terribly wrong. The aviator starts repeating her life story like a broken robot and attacks Sarah with poison. They manage to escape, only to run into a bunch of flashlight beams in the darkness. They are definitely not alone on this planet. An alien named Lord Noxacrillion lands on Earth and immediately moves to eliminate who he thinks is the world leader, DJ S. More Money. Apparently, the alien saw a photo of the DJ on a throne and completely misinterpreted it. Meanwhile, Zari and Constantine are in that "are we dating or just friends?" phase when they get the news. The timeline is a mess, but Nate and Barad manage to prevent the assassination live on TV. Ava, ever the strategist, lures Noxacrillion onto the Wave Rider and figures out his plan. If Earth doesn't prove its strength, an entire fleet will invade. The solution? A music reality show. If the alien loses fair and square, he'll call off the invasion and even help find Sarah. Zari, wanting to boost her brand, enters the competition. The problem is, she snubs Constantine in front of her mother, not knowing he's listening. The result? He breaks up with her live in front of everyone. To make matters worse, DJ S. More Money, who is her ex, decides to get his revenge like a soap opera villain and gives her a song to sing. Meanwhile, in another galaxy, Sarah and Gary are surrounded. To protect his friend, Gary reveals his alien form and literally eats their enemies. Back on Earth, the DJ gives the same song to Noxacrillion and has him sing it first, to make Zari look like a plagiarist. But the team figures out the plan, Barad knocks out the DJ, and Nate dons the giant marshmallow costume to replace him on stage. After the alien's performance, Zari panics, but Constantine confronts her. She then sings a song from the heart, a melody only the two of them knew. He joins her on guitar, and she wins. The alien, now tiny without his armor, honors his promise. But Mick runs in, all excited about a lead on Sarah, and splat! He accidentally squashes the alien. It turns out Kayla's cryo chamber crashed in Cuba in 1962, and she was captured by the Russians. Mick Rory, thinking he's the new leader, takes this lead and brings the team straight to the past. The only problem is, he forgot to cloak the Wave Rider, right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The result is chaos. President Kennedy thinks the ship is a Soviet bomb, and the team splits up like in a heist movie. Nate and Zari go to the White House to try to calm down the president. Barad and Ava infiltrate the Russian base, but Barad ends up being mistaken for Che Guevara's brother and becomes best friends with Fidel Castro. Ava is tasked with dissecting Kayla, but an anesthetic gas leaks and makes everyone pass out from laughter, except her. Ava manages to escape with Kayla, but the alien wakes up furious and attacks. Mick saves Ava, but Kayla gets away. The confusion only escalates. Barad tries to convince Castro not to start a war by playing him a song, but Kayla's sudden appearance spooks the dictator, who orders a nuclear missile launch against Washington. To prevent World War III, Nate's team has to play a game of football against a crazed general for the briefcase with the nuclear codes. They win, and the missile launched by Castro ends up landing on the general without exploding. In the end, Mick makes a deal with Kayla, her ship back in exchange for help finding Sarah, and leaves alone. The rest of the team is stranded at Constantine's house. To top it all off, Kayla uses a device to transform into a human, leaving Mick completely stunned. Astra is bored with mortal life at Constantine's house, and ends up releasing an evil magician named Aleister Crowley, who is trapped in a painting. Crowley takes advantage of her frustration and starts teaching her magic. Astra gets so annoyed with Constantine that she uses a spell to switch their places. John goes into the painting, and Crowley is free in his body. Meanwhile, Sarah discovers her kidnapper is someone named Bishop, the creator of the Ava clone. When the legends arrive at the house to use it as a base, an impatient Astra turns them all into objects, like a dark version of Beauty and the Beast. Crowley convinces Astra to create an amulet that requires a human soul to work. The victim is supposed to be the nosy neighbor, but Astra hesitates. In the meantime, Sarah tries to escape with the help of an Ava clone, but it's a trap. She fights, manages to kill Bishop, but he just reappears, like a video game boss with infinite lives. Back at the house, Crowley steals the amulet, sucks out the neighbor's soul, and becomes super powerful, turning everyone into a cartoon. The only way to save them is a musical. Trapped in the attic, Astra finds a magical song created by her mother. With the help of the legends in their Looney Tunes forms, she starts to sing. The music weakens Crowley, who turns into a giant demon but is defeated and sent back into the painting. Everyone returns returns to normal, and John and Astra finally make peace. The episode ends with Bishop telling a captured Sarah that they are now inseparable. Creepy. Here's where things get crazy. Bishop explains to Sarah Lance that he's alive because he's a superior clone, with all the original's memories. To make sure she doesn't escape, he surrounds her with an army of Avas. Meanwhile, Mick, Rory, and Kayla arrive on the planet, and ignoring Mick's suggestion to use respirators, they go out to find Sarah, leaving the Wave Rider wide open. Of course, someone takes the opportunity to sneak onto the ship. At John Constantine's house, the mood is awful. He's freaking out because the legends are trashing the place. Far away, Mick and Kayla find Bishop's hideout. Mick, ever the subtle one, charges the guards, only to discover they're all Ava clones and gets captured. He's furious with Kayla, who was planning to steal the Wave Rider, but realizes someone already beat her to it. Speaking of Ava, our Ava Sharp discovers a 1956 record of a murder in an asylum committed by a patient named Sarah Lance. Shocked, she tells the team, and everyone assumes it's an alien posing as Sarah. They head to 1956 and find this Sarah, who is actually Amelia Earhart. The suspicion continues, and Barad and Spooner try to interrogate her good cop, bad cop style. In the midst of all this, the real Sarah gets a surprise visit, Gary Green. He wants to rescue her, but Sarah, stubborn as ever, has her own plan and sends Gary to steal some power cells. Kayla, who also needs the cells, sees her ex-fiancé Gary attempting the theft and turns him over to the Ava clones, who wanted revenge because he ate D-Squad. Not cool, Gary. While Amelia tells her abduction story, Sarah pretends to ally with Bishop, who falls for it hook, line, and sinker, even inviting her to dinner. Amelia's charade is exposed when Ava realizes her ship is the stolen Wave Rider. The confusion is so great that Amelia freaks out. Her alien Zagaron side takes over, and she attacks everyone. At dinner, Bishop tells Sarah that Mick is probably dead, which enrages her. She attacks Bishop's clone and knocks him out, but the real drama comes later. Spooner confronts the transformed Amelia, who reveals the worst news of all. She poisoned Sarah, and the original Sarah is already dead. At the last second, Ava appears and kills Amelia, but the damage is done. Sarah, using the unconscious clone, enters the lab and comes face to face with the real Bishop, who shows her a covered body, the body of the real Sarah Lance. He reveals the truth. She is a clone. On the Wave Rider, it feels like a funeral. The whole team mourns Sarah's death, and Ava keeps watching, on a loop, the video of Sarah planning to propose to her. On Bishop's planet, Mick and Kayla prepare to rescue Sarah. Meanwhile, Bishop, now in a new body, reveals his master plan to create human-alien hybrids, starting with Sarah herself. She's disgusted, especially when he takes the engagement ring she made for Ava and he sends her to the incinerator. But wait, the rescue party arrives. Mick, Gary, and the good guy Ava clones save Sarah. The new plan is to blow up all of Bishop's clones at once. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Barad has the brilliant idea to go back in time to the end of Season 5 to prevent Sarah's abduction. The problem? It would erase Spooner from history. He goes anyway, but past Sarah refuses to leave because, you guessed it, she wants to propose to Ava. The plan fails. Back in the present, or future, whatever, Sarah discovers she has an alien healing factor.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just...
She confronts Bishop, who confesses to mixing her DNA with an alien's. She stabs him, takes back the ring, and asks one of the Avas to create a clean clone of her, without any alien DNA. The past team tries again, this time with an exploding mannequin to distract Gary. In the middle of the chaos, Spooner ends up having a super deep conversation with past Sarah. The plan goes wrong, and Barad realizes his distraction was precisely what caused the kidnapping. How ironic. The countdown begins. Mick shows up to get Sarah, but Bishop starts uploading his consciousness to the cloud. Sarah has a choice: create her clean clone or stop the villain. Mick lays it on the line. You're still Sarah, so they blow everything up. During the escape, Kayla disappears, then reappears to save the day, and disappears again. They have to leave without her. In the end, everything works out. Sarah returns to the Wave Rider and finds Ava. The team reunites, and with the mannequin exploding in the background like fireworks, Sarah finally gets down on one knee and proposes to Ava, and she says yes. After the engagement party, the mood on the Wave Rider is a little weird. The legends try to cheer Sarah up, but she's freaking out about being a human-alien hybrid clone, and asks Ava not to tell anyone. The conversation is interrupted by an alert. An alien pod has crashed in the Old West in 1891 in a town called Fist City. The place should be chaotic, but it's the opposite. Everyone is super friendly. There's no alcohol, no fights. It's like the Disney version of the Old West. The legends immediately know an alien is behind it. Meanwhile, Constantine won't stop bugging Gary about something called the Fountain of Imperium, which Gary swears is just a myth. To make things worse, history is all messed up. The region's most notorious outlaw, Levi Stapleton, is the sheriff. Suddenly, a giant worm bursts out of the ground and eats a guy. Sheriff Stapleton controls the creature with a whistle and warns that the monster feeds on anger. The plan? Get the whistle. Sarah challenges the sheriff to a duel, but he cheats and shoots her in the head. Except, she doesn't die. The wound heals instantly, and she gets up as if nothing happened. Full-on Terminator style. She shoots the whistle, and the worm, now uncontrolled, devours the sheriff. The problem is, the townsfolk grab the whistle and refuse to give it back. Why? Because the worm poops gold. That's right. The entire town is protecting the monster to get rich. A shootout begins, and the legends are trapped in the saloon. The tension rises, and the team starts arguing, which attracts the worm even more. Sarah reveals she's a hybrid. Gary confesses the fountain is real, and Nate explodes, releasing all his pent-up frustration about feeling forgotten by the team. He basically offers himself up as bait for the monster. That's when Spooner and Astra, who had made up, decide to act. They combine their powers and destroy the worm, saving Nate and the day. With everything resolved, history returns to normal. Gary, feeling guilty, gives Constantine a map to the fountain. The team makes peace, and life on the Wave Rider returns to its normal state of organized chaos. The legends are in a meeting about aliens, but Barad only cares about one thing. It's his birthday, and he's dropping hints more obvious than a soap opera villain. No one gets it. The day's mission is in Vancouver, 2023, where Mick Rory is having a serious argument with his daughter Lita, who suddenly shows up pregnant. Mick is pissed, but she's also mad at him for some reason. To try and cheer Barad up, the team gets him tickets to a taping of his favorite sitcom, Bud Stye. But the alien they were hunting, a cute little creature named Gus Gus, crashes right onto the set. The audience goes wild, and the director, Cameron, sees dollar signs and decides the alien is now part of the cast. Since they ruined his favorite show, Barad takes the mission personally. The problem is, Gus Gus forms a link with Cameron, and the show's vibe starts to change. And along with the show, Barad himself changes, turning into a stuffy suit. This timeline alteration has a tense side effect. If Barad became this boring guy, he never stole the totem, which means Zari 1.0 will cease to exist. Nate freaks out. Meanwhile, Mick is in a "I'm gonna kill my grandchild's father" mood, but in the end, he just wanted to thank the kid for taking care of Lita. A sweet moment that's quickly shattered by the revelation that Mick slept with Kayla, the alien. And to make it worse, Gary discovers she stuck tentacles in his ear. To save Barad and Zari 1.0, the team comes up with a crazy plan. Nate joins the show as an actor. Astra convinces the main star to return, and in the middle of the confusion, Nate manages to rescue Gus Gus using a gummy bear. With the show back to normal, Barad returns to his old self. To top it all off, he gets a surprise party, and Zari 2.0 reveals her plan. She'll go into the totem so Zari 1.0 can come back and be with Nate. But the biggest bombshell drops at the end. Gary announces that Mick is pregnant with Kayla's eggs. While the rest of the team deals with a pregnant Mick Rory, John Constantine is on his own mission to find the Fountain of Imperium. To do so, he tricks a vampire to get a map and, as a bonus, gets a mysterious potion. He convinces Spooner to go with him to Spain in 1939, right in the middle of the Civil War. Aboard the Wave Rider, life isn't easy. Gus Gus, the alien from the last episode, is growing up fast and has become a giant hormonal teenager. Meanwhile, Mick is still in denial about the pregnancy until Lita fakes going into labor just to drag him to the medbay. There, Gideon confirms he has 48 alien eggs in his skull. It finally sinks in. In Spain, Constantine and Spooner search for a guy called El Gato, a man who survived so many assassination attempts he must have drunk from the fountain. They end up finding a boy with healing powers, Fernando. But the peace doesn't last. A fascist captain named Noriega, a fan of mystical artifacts, storms the bar looking for El Gato for The bar owner sacrifices himself, but Fernando heals him in front of everyone, giving the game away. Constantine, dressed as a priest, tries to stall Noriega and comes up with a selfish plan. Use Spooner to channel Fernando's powers into himself. They reach the fountain, but it's dry. The boy's magic is transferred, but instead of going to Constantine, it returns to the fountain, which basically says, "You are not worthy." Desperate and cornered by soldiers, John drinks the vampire's potion. He goes into a berserker mode, slaughtering everyone with a maniacal laugh and leaving Spooner terrified. Back at the mansion, he bewitches Spooner to lie to the team, telling them the mission was a success. And to complete the cycle of doom, the vampire shows up with a supply of the potion, which he trades for Crowley's talking painting. Constantine is officially an addict. The team is in Kansas City, 2021, hunting the last alien pod, which turns out to be a weird cube. Sarah, Mick, Spooner, and Astra touch the object and zap. They're teleported to a cosmic bowling alley, wearing team shirts and everything. To make matters worse, outside there's no street, just the vacuum of space. Meanwhile, Nate and Zari 1.0 are trying to have one last romantic date on a camping trip, but are tormented by a tech-addicted neighboring couple. Their situation gets even weirder when they discover the entire Earth has plunged into an endless night and giant chasms are opening up everywhere. Back at the bowling alley, Spooner, on impulse, challenges a gang of alien bullies, the Pin Killers, to a match. The manager, Buddy, explains the game is cosmic bowling. The invited species bets their planet's survival, and the ball the Pin Killers are using? It's Earth itself. The holes Nate and Zari saw are actually the finger holes. On the Wave Rider, Constantine, high on his magic potion, casts a mega powerful spell to bring the ship to Earth, which ends up taking them just outside the bowling alley. The match begins, and the Legends are losing badly. Mick refuses to take off his gloves and can't hit a thing. Sarah then gives an inspiring speech. The important thing is to have fun. Mick reveals the gloves hide his burn scars. Understanding, Spooner cuts holes in his gloves, and he finally bowls a strike. In the climax, Zari, back on Earth, fires a giant energy rifle into the sky, hitting the Pin Killer's leader and making him throw the Earth ball into the gutter. Now, everything depends on Astra, who has never bowled in her life. Following Sarah's advice to bowl grandma style, she rolls the ball slowly and strike! The Legends win, Earth returns to normal, and the whole team gathers for a victory photo at the bowling alley. But Buddy leaves a sinister warning in the air. The power Constantine is using will be his undoing. After their space adventure, the Legends just want to get back to Earth. But it seems the universe isn't in a cooperative mood. Constantine's spell that saved everyone also fried the ship, and now the trip back will take 3 weeks. Yes, 3 weeks. Gary, ever helpful, suggests a tabletop RPG called Beast Slayers, but no one pays him any attention. With the ship's power at a critical low, Sarah and Ava become the rationing police, cutting off video games and tasty snacks. Meanwhile, Constantine is using magic to spoil Zari, but he's clearly addicted to a vial of red potion. Barad senses something is wrong, especially when Constantine almost gets naked in a yoga class and then picks a fight. The tension on the ship is worse than a reality show. To keep from killing each other out of boredom, they decide to play Gary's RPG. Except Constantine, who doesn't know how to play fair, uses magic and transports everyone into the game like a low-budget Jumanji. While they play this macabre version of Clue, on the real Wave Rider, Mick and Gary get a visitor, Kayla, Mick's alien ex, who shows up all busted up. She offers to fix the ship, but it's obvious she's up to something. Back in the game, things get serious. The deaths start to feel way too real, complete with blood and all. The team realizes they're trapped. The game's beast reveals itself. It's a dark version of Constantine himself, which feeds on his addiction to the potion. In the middle of the fight, Zari manages to stab the monster and free everyone. When they return, they discover 2 things. They've already arrived on Earth, and Kayla has tricked everyone, knocked out Mick and fled, leaving only a gross tentacle behind. To top it all off, Zari sees a scar on Constantine's back, exactly where she stabbed the beast. The person Sarah found is none other than Bishop, whom Kayla downloaded from the cloud straight to the ship's printer, like a pirated file. He swears he's changed, and is a good guy now, but Sarah doesn't buy it, and throws him in a cell. The mission now is to figure out what he wants. Meanwhile, Zari confronts Constantine about his bizarre behavior. He lies, of course, and she asks Astra and Spooner for help investigating. They discover the potion wasn't just a magical energy drink, but blood magic, a super dangerous substance. Zari gives him an ultimatum, her or the addiction. He throws the vial away, promising he'll detox. On the other side of the ship, Mick is literally in labor with the alien eggs, complete with pain and his hair falling out. It's bizarre. At the same time, Bishop is playing mind games with Ava, exploiting her insecurities about being a clone. He takes advantage of her vulnerability to get what he wants, and his plan is revealed in the worst way possible. It turns out the 6% of data missing from Bishop's download was filled with Sarah's DNA. With that, he manages to hack the Wave Rider, escape the cell, and go after Mick. He wants the alien babies. Bishop arrives right at the time of the birth, grabs the eggs, and steals a communicator from Mick's ear. This was his plan all along. To make matters worse, he uses the device to contact Constantine, who is suffering from withdrawal, and offers him his power back. Constantine's dark side attacks him, and the desperate mage accepts the villain's offer. Zari arrives at Constantine's place and finds it completely trashed, with blood and broken glass everywhere. He appears, but it's just a projection, and he admits to teaming up with Bishop. The two have stolen the Wave Rider and fled, with Astra and Spooner trapped on board. Their goal? To find the Fountain of Imperium in 1925 Texas. Upon arriving, Spooner comes face to face with a woman she instantly recognizes, her mother. She discovers her own tragic origin story. Her mother was murdered that very night, and she, just a child, was wounded and subsequently adopted by the Fountain, which is actually an alien being. Constantine, a master manipulator, offers Spooner the chance to change everything and save her mother. Meanwhile, the rest of the team cooks up a crazy plan to lure Kayla back. They post a picture of Mick with fake eggs on alien Instagram, and believe it or not, it works. They team up with her to rescue the real eggs. Back in 1925, Constantine convinces Spooner to give her blood to reactivate the fountain, which had run dry, but it was all a setup by Bishop. The serum he gave Constantine to purify him was actually poison. Upon connecting with the fountain, Constantine poisons and kills it. Bishop's plan was to destroy the fountain, which protected the Earth, to leave the planet vulnerable and start everything over. Constantine dies, realizing too late that he'd been played. The fountain's death causes the younger version of Spooner to vanish, but the adult Spooner gains powers. The team arrives just in time to see the disaster. Bishop has fled, Constantine is dead, and Mick gets caught in an explosion while trying to save the last egg. And we discover that Mick survived the blast and the Legends managed to save all the eggs. But it's not all good news. They soon realize that Bishop not only disabled the Wave Rider, but also stole Kayla's ship. Zari and Astra return to the Wave Rider and tell the team that Constantine is dead, explaining everything about the Fountain of Imperium and Bishop's plan. All that's left of Constantine is a mushroom, literally. The team goes to check on Spooner, who is sick with no apparent cure. To make matters worse, an alien scout crashes nearby, and although Sarah, Ava, and Nate take it down, its partner manages to send out a signal. While Kayla tries to fix the Wave Rider, Mick spends some time with her, helping with the eggs. He opens up saying that after being an absent father to Lita, he won't make the same mistake with these children. Kayla senses that someone is coming and decides to take the ship to escape, but she invites Mick to come with her and the kids. When they turn on Gideon, they find a video message from Bishop where he confirms his evil plan: to make Sarah watch everyone she loves die until only the two of them are left on Earth. The fountain isn't dead, but it's dying, which is why Spooner is sick. Barad has an epiphany. Constantine isn't dead, he's become the mushroom. Nate then comes up with a wild plan that breaks all of Sarah's rules: kidnap a younger version of Bishop to create an antidote. Sarah starts hearing Constantine's voice telling her to eat the mushroom. She does, and ends up in an astral plane where he explains that he is the only thing keeping the fountain and Spooner alive. And a secret to life? We're all connected. The young Bishop creates the antidote and Spooner is cured, but this doesn't stop the invasion. With aliens arriving, Sarah decides that she and Ava need to get married right then and there. As everyone prepares, the original Bishop appears on Kayla's ship. The fight begins, and Barad is injured. Spooner despairs. Her powers awaken. She heals her friend and starts powering up the rest of the team. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah and Ava exchange vows. When they kiss, a wave of energy explodes and defeats all the aliens. Love saved the day. To top it all off, Mick and Kayla's children hatch and devour Bishop.
No! Kill me! Kill me!
With the world saved, Mick decides to leave the team to raise his new family. But just as the remaining Legends are about to leave, another Wave Rider appears and destroys their ship. The team, confused and pissed, plans to board the mysterious Wave Rider for revenge, but they realize their time travel device is out of juice. They're stuck in Odessa, Texas in 1925. To make matters worse, the local pastor knocks on their door, suspicious about the explosion from the previous night. Spooner just slams the door in his face. Determined to get out of 1925, they split up to find the safe box, an indestructible item with everything they need to get home. Astra discovers the town sheriff has the box. Before they can retrieve it, they need a disguise. Ava recalls Time Bureau Rule 44. If all else fails, pretend you're a traveling circus. While the gang improvises costumes, Sarah sends Nate and Ava after the box. Nate introduces himself to the sheriff as J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI. The plan seems to work, but the sheriff sees a picture of the real Hoover in the newspaper and calls the actual FBI. The safe box is a bust. It only contains a note, some edibles, and an old manual. To complete the disaster, Astra's magic goes wrong and causes another explosion, attracting the real J. Edgar Hoover. The legends flee to a mansion in a pocket dimension, using the keys Zari got from Constantine. There, they discover that the scientist who invented time travel is alive in this era. New plan, head to New York. To get money and throw Hoover off their trail, Sarah suggests robbing banks. Ava is reluctant, but agrees. Spooner and Astra stay behind in Odessa. The heist is hilarious. They walk into the bank and ask for exactly $93.65, the cost of the train tickets. During their getaway, they're chased by Hoover, who clings to the car. A sudden break sends him flying. He shoots at Nate. The bullet ricochets off his steel body and kills Hoover. Yes, they killed the director of the FBI. Ava freaks out but quickly shifts into problem solver mode. The solution? Gary eats the body. Meanwhile, in Odessa, Astra unintentionally uses her magic to manifest Gideon in human form. Sarah's group catches a train to New York. Nate, using one of Gary's potions, disguises himself as Hoover, while Ava and Zari try to figure out who destroyed the Wave Rider. Nate is feeling guilty about killing Hoover, but soon has bigger problems. The train is stopped by fake FBI agents sent by Al Capone to kidnap the director. The train is diverted to Chicago. Nate tries to turn himself in, but the potion wears off right at that moment. Seeing that his kidnappers can no longer complete their mission, he forgives himself for Hoover's death, since it was out of his control. The team, now known as the Bullet Blondes, pays off Capone's goons to leave, but they're surprised by a robot identical to Hoover, which self-destructs. The suspicion arises. It was robots that destroyed the Wave Rider. Back in Texas, the human Gideon is acting strangely and can't speak. Spooner helps her recover, and Gideon drops a bombshell. They need to get to Davis's time travel experiment before the Legends do. Otherwise, the Legends will die. Astra, Gideon, and Spooner are on the road when they find a barn that conveniently is full of pies. Astra and Spooner start arguing over whether Gideon should steal one, and in the middle of this dessert-fueled existential crisis, Gideon freezes. That's right, the ship's AI, now in a human body, blue screens and passes out. Since a simple reboot is out of the question, Astra uses her powers to jump into Gideon's mind, taking Spooner with her. It's like a journey to the center of the mind. Inside, they run into a memory of Jefferson Jackson, speaking with a posh British accent and acting as the monitor of Gideon's buggy subconscious. Meanwhile, the past version of Bishop, who had been knocked out, wakes up. He goes through some old files and finds a copy of Gideon that he had downloaded back in 2021 before everything went down. Back in Gideon's mind, Jax warns them that she's losing her memories. To fix her, Astra and Spooner must help her relive important moments. The nostalgia tour includes the day they kidnapped Spooner and even an old fight between Sarah, Ray, Carter, and Snart, proving that Team Drama has been around since day one. They also discover a virus, a version of Gideon herself who refuses to be human. This virus corrupts memories, forcing Gideon to relive the deaths of several legends. The evil version reveals that Rip Hunter reprogrammed her to learn from the team and protect them. The virus then uses memories of the legends to attack the three of them. After defeating the copies, Astra and Spooner show Gideon happy memories, convincing her to accept her humanity. She wakes up, now officially a legend. Over in Vancouver, the past Bishop resets the Gideon copy he found, planning to use it as a weapon against the team. In other words, there's an evil Gideon on the loose now. Sarah's crew is hiding from another Hoover bot in a Chicago speakeasy, Prohibition style. To make some cash, they come up with the brilliant idea of selling the mansion's infinite drinks at the bar. But this pisses off the club's gangster owner, a guy named Ross Bottoni, who takes the club back. To help the bartender, Zari decides to throw a party at the mansion featuring a Bullet Blondes performance. While the party's going on, Gary plays armchair psychologist and tells Nate he only gets into doomed relationships to avoid commitment. This motivates Nate to finally have a talk with Z Tomaz. On the other side of the country, Spooner's group manages manages to hitch a train ride to Chicago with a jazz band. The band's leader, Maud, is stuck in an abusive relationship with none other than the same gangster, Batoni. The group helps her cut ties with him. The Hooverbot finally finds Zari's party, but the Legends manage to capture it. Spooner's group tries to catch up with Sarah's crew, but arrives too late. Gary has already left for New York on a train, taking the mansion and the rest of the team with him. In the end, Zari decides to stay behind and swaps places with Tomaz in the totem so she can interrogate the captured robot. Sarah's group arrives in New York and discovers a crucial part is missing from Davis's time machine. Gary finds the component, but Thomas Emerson shows up, confiscates the part, fires Davies, and steals his schematics. The Legends also find out that the Hooverbot chasing them was sent to replace them. In the midst of the chaos, Barad decides to turn on the machine himself and ends up erasing Ava and Gary from existence. Oops. Desperate, Davies makes a deal with Sarah. He'll help fix the mess if she helps him recover a loved one. Zari tries a high-tech solution and reprograms the Hooverbot to steal the plans back, but the robot explodes and gives Edison a heart attack.
Great Scott.
Mr. Edison.
Just then, a second Wave Rider appears out of thin air and delivers brand new robots to both sides. Davies then activates the machine himself, bringing Ava and Gary back. Meanwhile, there's some relationship drama. Nate suggests Zari live in the mansion to exist freely, but she wants them to live together inside the air totem. Far away, Spooner's group nearly makes it to New York, but their car gets stolen. Out of patience, Astra uses her powers and causes a citywide blackout to stop the time machine. The two groups finally reunite, use a chip from the Hooverbot to activate the machine, and end up in a completely unknown time and place. Classic. In 2214, Bishop decided to build his own Wave Rider. Basically, he pirated Gideon's schematics and built a generic version of the ship. With his assistant, an Ava clone, he declares himself a Time Master, and his first mission is to travel to 1925 and blow up the Legends' original Wave Rider, a very subtle way of saying hello. To fix the messes they create in the timeline, the duo uses Ava clone technology to create robot replacements for people, but his ship's Gideon isn't thrilled with Bishop's lack of commitment. To force him to take his job seriously, she simply ejects the Ava clone into the time stream and creates a Bishop bot to live out the rest of his life. But the plan backfires, and the real Bishop becomes even more unmotivated. Meanwhile, the Legends are trapped. Davies' time machine is broken again. To blow off some steam, Astra and Spooner help Sarah and Ava smash things to vent their anger. Nate decides he's had enough and moves into the air totem for good. Gary and Gideon, our Gideon, take the opportunity to have a deep talk about their experiences as quasi-humans. Davies finally opens up and reveals he built the machine to save his comrades from World War I, including his crush, Alun. And then comes the bombshell. Barad discovers they're in Chernobyl, 1986, on the exact day of the disaster. Davies tries to be the hero and broadcasts an evacuation warning, which ends up alerting the evil Gideon. The Legends fix the machine and get out of there. But at the last second, the real Bishop sneaks aboard the ship. Now they have a problematic stowaway. The Legends land in 1943, with Bishop in tow, whom they promptly lock up somewhere in the mansion. And, as is tradition, the time machine breaks again. The solution is to smuggle parts from a nearby airplane factory. There, Astra gets into a fight with the racist boss, a Mr. Staples, and accidentally freezes the guy, literally. With the boss turned into a popsicle, Astra takes charge and racially integrates the factory. This causes most of the white female employees to quit. Unfazed, she helps the remaining women finish building the plane. The work is so impressive that Eleanor Roosevelt herself shows up to congratulate the team, convincing the now-thawed Mr. Staples to let everyone keep their jobs. Meanwhile, Zari swaps places with Tarazi, and Barad, inspired by Astra, decides to put a stop to Bishop, who's been freeloading and teaching Barad to please the totem's ancestors. To apologize for his slacking, Bishop hands over a device that gives Gideon control of the time machine. Eleanor's move to integrate the factories 2 years ahead of schedule creates an anomaly and attracts the attention of the evil Gideon, who sends soldiers to attack. That's when Bishop surprises everyone. He kills 2 soldiers and sacrifices himself so the Legends can escape, a plot twist worthy of a movie. The soldiers are actually robotic clones of the Legends, and the 2 that died were the Zari and Astra bots. We learn that for these robots, death is just a minor inconvenience. The Robo Ava simply revives Robo Zari and Robo Astra as if rebooting a computer. The robot team, who firmly believes they are the originals, is in Pripyat, 1986, back at the scene of the Chernobyl crime. Their mission is to correct history victory by killing the soldiers who were supposed to die in the explosion and making Davies' warning look like a false alarm. During a medical checkup with Robo-Ava, Robo-Sarah notices a robotic part being removed from her. Suspicious, she steals the CPUs containing the team's medical records and asks Robo-Zari to take a look. The truth comes out, they're robots, and their minds are transferred to new bodies every time they die. Basically, a cloud-based backup system for time assassins. Robo-Sarah is ordered to eliminate Dr. Irina Petrov, the new sole survivor of Chernobyl, but she has a crisis of conscience and decides to spare the woman. Faking her death, she confronts Robo-Ava, who confirms everything. The evil Gideon joins the conversation, promising to turn them into better versions of the originals. To ensure no one steps out of line, she manipulates and reprograms Robo-Zari, who then captures Robo-Sarah. The poor thing is reprogrammed to become an unquestioning killer, and Robo-Nate is promoted to the new captain of the futuristic extermination squad. The Legends are in deep trouble after Gideon time jumps and dumps everyone into John Constantine's mansion. Gwyn is eager to go back and rescue Bishop, but Sarah shuts him down, saying the man's sacrifice would be in vain. To make matters worse, Nate takes a peek outside and opens the door straight to hell, complete with fire and screams. Trapped with nowhere to go, the team starts blaming Gideon, who is running a fever and feeling terrible. Gary finds Gideon in a slump, trying to defend herself. He consoles her, a kiss on the cheek happens, and suddenly, the two head upstairs to get to know each other better. At the same time, Barad is working up the courage to ask Astra out, and Zari and Nate give him a little push, already considering themselves in-laws. The temperature rises, literally, when Astra and Spooner find Gwyn passed out in front of the open door to hell. A strange presence invades the house, and Astra figures it out. The house is infested with a film crew cursed by a demon. They're like a 90s reality show and will only be freed if they film something authentic. Zari immediately calls it. It's just like her family's reality show, Kielt. The demon behind it all, Harris Leeds, starts manipulating everyone to create drama. Sarah suddenly only wants to go on vacation. Nate and Zari get into a huge fight, and Gwyn gets a signed permission slip from Sarah to save Alun. Things explode at a chaotic dinner where Gwyn reveals he actually wants to prevent World War I. In the middle of the confusion, Barad snaps. He lays it all out. The trauma of growing up with cameras in his face, the pressure to always be the chill guy, and the fear that no one truly likes him. The speech is so genuine, it breaks the curse. After everyone makes up, a recovered Gideon suggests their next destination, Sarajevo, 1914, to prevent the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinandi. The gang laughs, thinking it's a joke, but she's dead serious. After Gideon's crazy idea, the team is like, "Excuse me?" She explains that the Archduke's assassination is a fixed point in time, an event that cannot be changed. The idea is to mess things up just enough to attract the evil Wave Rider, since even the evil Gideon would have to show up to fix this big of a mess. While the robots are busy, the Legends can steal their ship. With a motivational speech from Sarah, the plan is a go. They arrive in 1914 and are immediately stopped by a guy who takes them to a secret bar, like a VIP lounge for frustrated time travelers who have also tried to stop the assassination. The bar's owner explains that time itself makes sure to kill anyone who tries to change a fixed point. Meanwhile, Sarah and Nate discover that the Legends have become a joke to the new generation of time travelers. To make matters worse, Sarah's first attempt to stop the assassination is a disaster, and she's humiliated. But Nate gives her a pep talk. Since they are masters of failure, they're the perfect people for this mission. The new plan is for Sarah, who's immortal, to use all the tickets from the bar to try again and again until she gets it right. What follows is a comedic horror show. She's blown up, run over, shot, and even accidentally poisons herself. In the midst of the chaos, Zari and Spooner finally connect and realize that Spooner might be asexual. They also notice a mysterious man in a top hat who appears every time Sarah is about to fail. He's the guardian of the fixed point. To face him, Sarah needs an upgrade, and with no tickets left, she gets help from the same young travelers who made fun of her. On her last attempt, she confronts the guy, and it's none other than Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. He is now the protector of this place. Sarah makes a deal with him. Thawne will pause time for 40 minutes so they can steal the ship, but if they fail, she has to take his post forever. She accepts. The Archduke passes by unharmed. and the evil Wave Rider lands. It's now or never. The Robo Legends emerge, guns blazing, and massacre Thawne and everyone in the bar. Robo Ava and Robo Astra show up, but Barad lures them into the mansion, and Gary heroically shoves them both into hell. Robo Zari also appears and is taken down by the original Zari, who disguises herself and boards the Wave Rider to deactivate the evil Gideon. The chaos continues. Spooner tricks Robo Gary into eating Robo Spooner. The result? Boom! He explodes. Astra doesn't want the human Gideon to participate, afraid she'll get hurt, but eventually gives in. Gideon uses her silver tongue to trick Robo Sarah into removing her own CPU, deactivating herself. The final move comes from Nate, who tricks his clone, convincing the robot to become the new guardian of the fixed point in Thawne's place. Genius. With the robots defeated, Gideon returns to the mansion to rescue Gary and Ava, who are still trapped in hell. But just when everything seems resolved, Robo Astra, who survived the fall, reappears out of nowhere and stabs Gideon in the back before finally shutting down for good. To save the human Gideon, the team comes up with a boneheaded idea: reactivate the Gideon AI, the Skynet version of their friend. They use Protocol 276, which is basically a "you can't get hurt" command, like the first law of robotics but for preventing self-deletion. The AI recovers and makes a proposal. If the Legends retire, she'll leave everyone alone and even show them trailers of their happy futures. But the team doesn't trust an AI to even tell them the time and tries to pull the plug on her for good. Seeing the conflict, the human Gideon decides to play robot sitter and becomes a time master to keep an eye on her digital counterpart. With that, the Legends agree to retire. Astra, ever the planner, makes copies of the mansion key so they can all visit each other. Gideon rescues Alun, and he and Gwyn finally admit they're into each other. Gary, ever loyal, decides to stay with Gideon, but the peace is short-lived. Gideon reveals to Gary that Alun's death was a fixed point in time, one of those unchangeable events, and that the guy she brought back is just a robot clone. Gwyn overhears everything and immediately starts plotting to rescue the real Alun. To top it all off, the Gideon AI tricks Gary, throws him into a vacuum chamber, and ejects him into the time stream.
You and your obsession with love pose too great a risk to the timeline. Goodbye.
Then, she has the audacity to tell the human Gideon it was all his fault. After an unplanned trip to 30,000 BC, Gary somehow makes it back to the mansion. The news isn't good. The team discovers that Gwyn actually died in 1916, at one of those fixed points that time won't let you mess with. But in the midst of the chaos, Gary notices a detail. Sarah is pregnant, and her healing factor has passed to the baby, a sort of prenatal superpower transfer. The team tries to go back in time to save Gwyn, but the human Gideon blocks their path. Astra and Spooner spring into action and convince Gideon to turn against her AI version. The Gideon AI, feeling the pressure, downloads herself into a clone body, like Ultron manifesting. The human Gideon then deactivates the Wave Rider's cloaking, turning the AI clone into an anomaly, a bug in the system. The clone explodes, but Astra manages to create a shield and reassemble the ship like a magical puzzle. Meanwhile, the rest of the team meets Mike, the Fixer, a guy whose job is, well, to fix things. Gwyn explains that any attempt to save him would create a paradox, and Mike feels useless. In a fit of rage, he smashes Gwyn's machine and steals the Wave Rider. In the confusion, Nate manages to rescue the real Alun, but ends up losing his powers due to mustard gas and retires to live in the air totem. Sarah finally announces her pregnancy to everyone. To complete the mess, Mike returns with the Wave Rider but brings the time police with him. The result? Everyone gets arrested.